Part 34. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 332. Mackenzie swam towards the shore. He was surrounded by cold seawater, but his heart was full of warmth. It felt so good to be alive. As he swam, Mackenzie suddenly saw a lot of seaweed-like things floating beside him. He wanted to push away the seaweed, but after grabbing it, he found that it was not seaweed at all, but hair, several meters long hair. Mackenzie suddenly remembered the giant just now. The corpses on the seabed were still dragging a ship forward. The sea here was only a few dozen meters deep, and the giant's head was about to float out of the water. The giant's forehead, face, and shoulders slowly appeared, and the ship behind him also turned over from the sea with the efforts of the giant and other corpses. The ship stopped moving forward and stopped at the shore. Mackenzie continued to swim towards the shore. He finally saw the owner of these corpses, a young zombie. "Mr. Zombie, Mr. Rudolph just spared my life, saying that I was useful and asked me to come to you." Mackenzie carefully observed the young and overly heretic in front of him, but found that this heretic was easy to talk to. "Oh, what's your name? What can you do?" "My name is Mackenzie, I am the first mate of this ship, and I am very familiar with this ship." Cooper was very happy that Rudolph was so thoughtful and actually got him a first mate. Cooper didn't know what to do with that ship. Cooper asked first, "My name is Cooper, so, what should we do now?" "Mr. Cooper, we should drain the water first." "Yes, we should drain the water first, the ship can't float. Wait a minute, I'll look for a Cancer wizard or a Pisces wizard." Mackenzie felt a chill on his back. The tone of Zombie Cooper was like some people randomly looking for a card in the deck when playing cards. "Yes, but the level is not high. These Cancer wizards didn't try to upgrade when they were alive, and now they are only 1 or 2 levels. Most of Cooper's collections come from Old Grey. Old Grey is not picky and collects a little bit of everything. With the help of the Cancer wizards, streams of seawater were pumped out of the cabin and then discharged to the sea surface. Cooper looked up at the distant sea surface, and Rudolph was shaking the second ship again. This time it was still the outermost ship of the Alchemy Alliance fleet. This ship is much larger, an 80-gun ship. The large ship is larger in size, and it takes Rudolph longer to shake it. Avoiding mines and clearing the special warfare apostles who jumped off the ship, Rudolph lurked on the side of the ship facing away from the coast. With the experience of the last time, Rudolph became more and more skilled. With a breath, the level 3 Dark River Ring helped Rudolph create large waves and troughs here. This large ship has greater inertia, and once it shakes, it is more difficult to stabilize. The captain had just witnessed a ship sinking in the shaking, and his countermeasures were limited. The only thing he could do was to delay as much as possible and wait for the command to send support. However, the naval battle between the two sides was so intense that the ships in front had even entered a boarding battle, and the support for the outer ships would not be fast. Everyone. 2 people carry one thing, anything, and run against the direction of the ship's swing. When the ship sank to the left, the crew carried things and ran to the right side of the ship. When the ship sank to the right, the crew carried things and ran to the left side of the ship. The crew who dared not go into the water could only use this most primitive method to try their best to avoid the ship from being shaken and sunk. There were hundreds or even hundreds of people on a naval ship, and their efforts were rewarded. The ship did not quickly approach the critical angle of the sinking ship. Rudolph was depressed in the sea. Is this ship so big? When he floated to the surface, he heard the crew on the deck running and shouting left, in unison, and after a while, they started shouting right, again. These crew members, the battle is so urgent, they don't deal with the Royal Navy properly, now they are learning from Rudolph, and rowing the boat without doing their job. Rudolph is an idler, are you also idlers? While the ship was swaying, a big wave suddenly jumped up and rushed onto the deck. Black and purple liquid flowed on the deck. Ship doctor. Ship doctor. The ship's doctor also ran out of the cabin, shouted that it was not good, and hurried to detoxify the crew. This 80-gun ship is equipped with a level 4 plague medium. There is only one Scorpio wizard, but there are hundreds of people poisoned. After knocking down many people, these people finally stopped causing trouble for Rudolph, and the ship swayed again. When moving on the sea, everything is inseparable from the ship, and the sinking of the ship means the death of the entire ship. The crew lost their sense of security and felt only deep fear. Many crew members shouted, "Where is the Apostle Master? Where is the Honorable Alchemist?" No one can answer these questions, because no alchemist dared to go into the water at this time. There is a dangerous beast hidden in the sea. What about our countermeasures? How to deal with the wizard's high-level apostle? The captain kept shouting at the liaison officer, wanting the liaison officer to contact the flagship. The liaison officer's light language was almost out of focus, and there was no feedback from the flagship. It's not that the flagship ignored their requests for help, but all the ships were asking for help. The flagship originally sent a special person to deal with the chaos here, but when he was halfway there, he encountered a Royal Navy ship and had to deal with the danger in front of him first. After the Royal Navy rushed up, sometimes they themselves didn't know where they were rushing. The other side of bravery is recklessness, which is a common problem of knights. After losing 2 ships on the flank, the Royal Navy quickly discovered something unusual here. They sent a shock fleet of 3 inspection ships to rush to the side, trying to expand the chaos here. Rudolph's actions finally changed the battlefield to a greater extent. In the midst of this chaos, a small boat was heading towards the flagship of the Alchemy Alliance. The boat wanted to send a woman aboard to provide information to the commander. The tall ship next to it lost its way and almost hit the small boat. The officer on the small boat was very calm and walked towards the flagship calmly. This time the Alchemy Alliance sent troops secretly and did a lot of confidentiality work. After leaving the home port early, the sailing route was far away from the land. They tried to rely on supply ships along the way and did not go ashore. This caused the ship's intelligence to lag slightly. Standing in front of the boat is Nancy, the witch hunter and ascetic priest. Her eternally cold face was now filled with anxiety. The tall ships on both sides were like mountain walls, giving her the feeling of walking in a canyon. The judicial office of Orb Province and the Navy belong to different departments. She also contacted the office of the Judiciary Office in the United States of Elba, and then contacted the Navy with the help of the office. Raise a witch hunter team, a powerful team composed of 7 level 4 apostles, suffered heavy losses one after another in the port of Qatar, 6 of whom were killed. This matter must be informed to the commander as soon as possible. In addition to witch hunting, Reza's team also undertook some sabotage work behind enemy lines. Now these arrangements have become useless. So many level 4 apostles were killed, this news must be informed to the fleet command. When she boarded the flagship, she saw some staff officers walking hurriedly on the deck. They wanted to report the new situation to the commander immediately. One of the messages made the staff officers frown. An unknown water wizard had attacked the flank. The second ship fell to the sea during the wizard's attack and was slowly sinking. Where are the people from the intelligence department? Are they all dead? I still don't know who that witch is and what his abilities are. Nancy entered the command room under the leadership of the staff officer. She said hastily without any unnecessary nonsense, that wizard is the wanted criminal Rudolph the Furnace. He is helping the Restoration Army. He is a level 4 Scorpio wizard. Master a lot of powerful witchcraft, one of which is a fire witchcraft, at least a level 5 witchcraft. The level 5 witchcraft Nancy was talking about was the last strange flame she saw that blocked all the attacks of the witch hunter team and killed the witch hunters. A commander said, "It's okay. The one we sent over is the Pisces wizard. The Pisces wizard will not lose in the sea water." Faced with the command's reply, Nancy felt a little doubtful in her heart. The Pisces wizard is indeed powerful in the water, but can he really fight against that terrifying wizard? The second ship enters the sea, and Vanya tells Cooper the news, and Cooper will come to tow the second ship away. At the same time, Rudolph set his sights on a third ship. A Royal Navy ship appeared not far away, which made Rudolph more calm. Even with the help of the Royal Navy, Rudolph would not dare to sneak into a regular ship, let alone let Abigail enter such a ship. There must be an alchemical sealing circle in the ship. Neither he nor Abigail can use any of their abilities once they are cut off from star power. He does have an anti-sealing array, but it is certainly not as skillful as an alchemist in setting it up, so there is no need to take this risk. Therefore, Rudolph was still prepared to use stupid methods to slowly sink the ship first. This method of sinking the ship first and then capturing it forced Rudolph to consider continuing to cooperate with the Royal Navy. According to First Officer Mikens, these ships require large-scale maintenance after taking on water, which he cannot do. After Rudolph took a breath, he quickly dived into the water and swam towards the third ship. This time he planned to find a 60-gun ship. The 80-gun ship was too large and would increase the risk if it took longer. Rudolph soon selected the target. When he observed the ship's firing rhythm, he didn't know if it was an illusion, but a big fish seemed to flash past in the distance. The shells hit the water one after another, scaring away all the animals. Except for some scavenging and low IQ fish swimming close to the bottom of the sea, even small fish and shrimps hid or swam in the vibrations. Gone. The big fish has a very high IQ and will not stay in this dangerous sea area at this time. Rudolph used the underwater ring to swallow seawater while carefully observing his surroundings. Level 4 danger intuition told him that there was some dangerous aura surrounding him. Soon the dangerous atmosphere became stronger and stronger, and it seemed that the surrounding seawater was repelling Rudolph and becoming Rudolph's enemies. This feeling was very bad. He had just acquired the level 4 shock detection technique. He carefully collected the vibrations in the surrounding seawater. The enemies that had just appeared completely disappeared. Except for the corpses of a few special operations personnel, there was nothing around him. Suddenly, Rudolph lowered his head in the water, and his legs were twisting uncontrollably. A huge vortex appeared in the deep sea, as if a huge hole had opened on the seabed there. The force of the vortex was so strong that Rudolph's legs were twisted together like twists. This vortex formed a vertical channel in the water. Rudolph was unable to react in the vortex, and his body rushed downward uncontrollably. He looked up at the sea, only to find that he was getting farther and farther away from the sea. Rudolph tried to use the Pisces witch language to swim upstream, but found that the surrounding seawater was completely disobedient. The effect of the witchcraft language was not obvious, and he had a stronger ability to control the sea water. He tried the Gemini witch language, relative again, trying to change the relative position between himself and the sea water, which is also one of the ways to control the state of motion, but he failed again. Before, he lamented that the ocean was his home, but now it seems that the real master of the sea water has come. It is said that the Pisces wizard is the overlord of the water. If nothing unexpected happens, his enemy is the Pisces wizard. A huge amount of toxins appeared around Rudolph, and the entire vortex was dyed dark purple. If someone wants to harm Rudolph, then he must first withstand the attack of toxins. No matter how deep the seabed is, there will be a bottom. This is still a coastal sea area. Rudolph sank about 50 meters and stopped sinking. He has sensed the seabed through vibration detection. The vortex is still rolling Rudolph and spinning wildly. The purple poisonous clothes can hardly cover Rudolph and began to disintegrate. This is not important. What is more fatal is that Rudolph's oxygen in his chest is almost gone. A mouthful of sea water is replaced by bubbles, and the sea water pours into Rudolph's throat. The bubbles are broken in the vortex and flow to the surface of the sea. When Rudolph gulped down a lot of saliva, his arms and legs stopped struggling and began to spin unconsciously with the sea water. Rudolph narrowed his eyes and gave up resistance. This vortex was created by some special witchcraft or magic weapon, which was very powerful. It should be the Pisces wizard. Only the Pisces wizard had such a strong control over water. At this time, nothing could be seen around him. Rudolph closed his eyes completely and relied entirely on vibration detection. Just a dozen seconds later, when Rudolph didn't know if he could hold on, the target appeared. It was the man who swam very fast in the sea again. Like a clever dolphin, he appeared in Rudolph's detection range, and then cruised around Rudolph in the dark sea. He was waiting for Rudolph to suffocate completely, and then easily took Rudolph down. The vortex had disappeared, and Rudolph was quietly suspended in the seawater, motionless, even his heartbeat disappeared. The Pisces wizard who was cruising next to him slowly approached Rudolph. He was waiting patiently, waiting for the moment when he could see the relic. Only when the starlight comes on can it prove that the wizard in front of him is completely dead. This is a practical trick for wizards to fight each other. Two relics suddenly appeared in Rudolph's palm. These are relics stored in the star map. The relic is in the Black Sea water, shining with starlight that only wizards can see. The Pisces wizard stopped cruising, very relaxed as every previous battle. However, Rudolph in the Black Sea water suddenly opened his eyes. The power of the star map deceived this Pisces wizard. The dark river ring was fully activated at this time, gathering all the surrounding sea water into the ring, forming a black hole around Rudolph that swallowed the sea water. The Pisces wizard was suddenly attracted by the dark river ring, and his body involuntarily went towards Rudolph. At the same time, Rudolph's heart suddenly flickered with flames, which were flames that could not be extinguished by sea water. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 333. Pisces wizards have unparalleled underwater survival and swimming abilities, and many wizards will explore the seabed. Wandering in the dark seabed, Pisces wizards can see magnificent corals and discover rare deep-sea fish, which makes people sigh at the power of nature. The Pisces wizard now recalled a bad memory. He had encountered a volcanic eruption on the seabed. The seawater smelled of sulfur, the seawater was boiling, and the seawater temperature under high pressure exceeded 100 degrees Celsius. Just sensing it from a distance made him feel scared. The crater must be the most dangerous place on the seabed. At that time, he thought that he would go back and ask the teacher about the location of the submarine earthquake zone to avoid these dangerous places. But now, he seemed to be in the crater. The cold seabed was instantly hot, which was what the seawater looked like when it reached boiling point. The air dissolved in the water formed violent bubbles at high temperatures, obscuring the sight of the Pisces wizard. He could not see anything, but felt that every inch of his skin was expanding and bubbling, as if he had been thrown into a boiling pot. Ripples appeared around Rudolph. These ripples were so dangerous that they were all made up of ring-shaped jets of high-temperature plasma. From pretending to suffocate, to pretending to be dead, and then to using relics to confuse the Pisces wizard, Rudolph successfully deceived the Pisces wizard and let him get close enough to Rudolph. The moment the Lion King Starfire appeared, it rushed towards the Pisces wizard at a very fast speed. The Pisces wizard was the fastest wizard in the water. As soon as he discovered the danger, he had tried his best to turn around and flee far away. However, the boiling behind him swallowed him, and his lower body instantly disappeared in the strange fire beam. The Lion King Starfire swallowed his feet, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, and even the middle of his thighs. The dazzling red light illuminated the dark seabed and the eyes of the Pisces wizard. There was only despair and confusion in those eyes. Why would there be a burning fire beam on the seabed? On the sea, the third ship that Rudolph had targeted had already discovered the vortex on the sea and knew that the Pisces wizard on the flagship had come. The commander breathed a sigh of relief. If it was a Pisces wizard, he would definitely be able to deal with the Scorpio wizard in the water. They are all water wizards, but Pisces wizards are stronger in the water. Soon the abnormal waves in the water disappeared, the force that shook the ship had disappeared, and the shaking amplitude of the hull had reached the limit, and the shaking amplitude would no longer increase. Let the damn Scorpio wizard under the water die quickly. Only when the Scorpio wizard died can they concentrate on dealing with the Royal Navy. They were not happy for long. A few minutes later, everyone on the ship suddenly felt that the ship jumped up. Yes, this is not an illusion. Such a heavy behemoth actually jumped up. The sea surface instantly changed from black and purple to white. The alchemist recognized this white color. This was a big explosion on the seabed. When repairing dams or other underwater fortifications, a large amount of explosives will be laid underwater. When a large amount of explosives explode, such a white shock wave will be formed on the water surface. The explosion created by the spark blew all the water above into the air, and the ship was just above the explosion. Rudolph sank to the side of the 80-gun ship, so the white water column also rushed to the side of the ship. The violent explosion not only blew the sea water into the air, but also the ship jumped up under the support of the gushing sea water. The ship, which had not yet finished swaying, was lifted up by the sea water, completely lost its balance, and fell into the sea water. The explosion at the bottom of the sea eventually turned into a huge white water column. There was also a figure in the water column, and Rudolph came to the air with the shockwave water column. A large mouthful of air suddenly rushed into his mouth, and Rudolph first spit out a few mouthfuls of water, and then breathed greedily. Even higher water columns will fall back into the sea, and Rudolph fell back into the sea with the white water column. Lying on the sea, Rudolph took a long time to suppress the pain all over his body. First he suffocated, then the Lion King's spark burned part of his blood, and then he breathed suddenly. His chest and lungs seemed to explode. Whether breathing or swallowing saliva, it would bring severe pain. The white water column just now attracted the attention of many ships. Several searchlights shone here. Rudolph turned and dived into the water and disappeared on the sea. That's it for tonight. Rudolph doesn't want to be targeted by other ships again. There is also a relic of a level 4 Pisces wizard in the sea water. Don't let the relic be swallowed by a fish. After so much effort and so much suffering, you can't get nothing. After diving into the seabed again, Rudolph found the relic that was shining with starlight in the gap of a coral tree. It was a colorful shell. The level 4 Pisces shell disappeared in Rudolph's hand, and a meteor appeared in the star map. This meteor flew to the Sagittarius Omega star. The progress of Sagittarius came to 8/18. There are 3 options falling from the Sagittarius Omega star: level 4 swimming fish technique, level 4 wizard water shell, and level 4 vortex technique. The vortex technique is the powerful vortex that just trapped Rudolph. This technique is very useful in underwater entanglements, and ordinary apostles cannot get rid of it at all. The 4th level magic weapon water shell uses the resistance of water to form a very powerful protective shell in the water, which can make objects entering the water shell as if they have entered a colloid and cannot move. Both of them are very useful, but Rudolph chose the first one, the 4th level fish swimming technique. After learning this magic, Rudolph will have an extremely fast swimming speed in the water, which is what Rudolph needs most. Any witchcraft that helps to escape is the most useful witchcraft. No matter how powerful other witchcraft is, it can only be attributed to the 2nd tier. Only with life can you have everything, and only with life can you have output. If Rudolph had this technique, he would not be captured by the Pisces wizard's vortex technique at all. His body became soft and his joints more flexible, making his body like a fish swimming in the water. In addition to suddenly mastering many swimming skills, the surrounding sea water also became extremely obedient. With just a little star power, he could control the surrounding sea water. When moving forward, the sea water in front avoided him, and the sea water behind pushed him. He could move forward a long distance without any effort. This is the feeling of the Lord of the Ocean. This is the most basic ability of the Pisces wizard, which is much faster than the speed Rudolph got with the Pisces witch language swimming. Because the swimming speed is very fast, a lot of seawater is passed in a short time. The oxygen dissolved in these sea waters automatically gathers in Rudolph's mouth. With a light breath, the sea water automatically avoids and the oxygen enters Rudolph's mouth. This technique can actually allow Rudolph to breathe in the sea, and he will never be afraid of suffocation again. Perfect underwater witchcraft, perfect escape witchcraft. If there were no star map, Rudolph could only slowly experiment with the combination of witch language to obtain this witchcraft. After years of training, he might reach half the level of this technique. Or a teacher would teach him the key points so that he could master it quickly. In fact, wizards need teachers. Learning witch language requires teachers, and the method of making witchcraft tools requires teachers. The star map is Rudolph's teacher, which saved Rudolph from many detours. A large shadow is approaching above his head. It is the ship that just sank into the sea. The shock wave of the explosion just now dispersed all the toxins left by Rudolph before. At this time, Rudolph saw many people struggling to move upwards in the sea, trying to abandon the ship and escape. Just as Rudolph was about to choose his beloved relics in it, he suddenly saw another black shadow. This water column actually attracted the second Pisces wizard around. Rudolph was very strange. Are there so many high-level Pisces wizards in the coalition fleet? Does the Navy have a tradition of hiring Pisces wizards? The appearance of several Pisces wizards made Rudolph wonder if there was a department specifically set up for Pisces wizards in the Navy of the Alchemy Alliance. After assessing his physical condition, Rudolph was not prepared to make trouble. Using the Lion King Starfire underwater was much more burdensome than on the ground. This was already Rudolph's limit. 3 ships were enough, and it was time to leave. Without the forbidden Starfire technique Lion King Starfire, Rudolph would have died tonight. He was not very familiar with the ocean. It was too dangerous here, so he should be careful and not jump too much. As for this ship, wait until the battle is over, and then let Cooper tow it away. However, after he escaped for a distance, he frowned and looked behind him. The second Pisces wizard could actually know his position and chased him quickly from behind. This was too much. Was he going to harvest 2 level 4 Pisces relics tonight? Soon, Rudolph felt the star power of others in the surrounding sea water. There were many undercurrents in the water, which slowed down Rudolph's speed a lot, and the distance between him and the Pisces wizard was getting closer and closer. After chasing underwater for a few minutes, Rudolph suddenly felt a pain in his brow. Someone locked him. A vortex appeared again in the sea water under him. No, if you look closely, there are 4 or 5 vortices. These vortices surrounded Rudolph, and the surrounding vortices tried to drive Rudolph to the central vortex. This time, Rudolph would not make the same mistake again. His speed was not slow, and it was impossible to be captured in the first time. After trying several times, he could not break through the encirclement of those vortices. The sea water between the vortices was also turbulent, which looked very dangerous. Rudolph did not want to take risks, so he stopped swimming forward and quickly swam upstream. Rudolph rushed out of the sea and glided on the sea like a flying fish. The vortex turned into a waterspout, and it actually jumped out of the sea and followed closely behind Rudolph. Several incarnation bats appeared behind Rudolph, and the incarnation bats split into a group of bats. Each incarnation bat sent out a blood tangent to crush the waterspout behind. Taking advantage of this time, Rudolph spread his iron bat wings and flew into the air. With the level 4 swimming fish technique, he was able to get rid of the entanglement of the Pisces wizard. Rudolph, who originally thought he was out of danger, felt pain in his eyebrows again. This time the pain was more severe than being targeted by the Pisces wizard. there was a weapon behind him that locked Rudolph. He turned around and found that the reserve troops who had been staying behind the Alchemy Alliance had joined the battle. 6 ships came to the flank at some point, that is, to the direction of Rudolph. One of them even broke away from the queue and rushed towards Rudolph. Waterspouts jumped out of the water one after another. These waterspouts had no attack power, but only guided the direction of the ships. More than 50 rockets flew out from that ship, and the target of the rockets was Rudolph in the air. This is actually a ship with enhanced rocket firepower, specially used to deal with high-level apostles. More than 50 rockets, this is a basic amount of ammunition on the rocket ship. This rocket ship did not attack the Royal Navy. This is not only a roaring rocket, but also a proof of the alchemists' anger. They are anxious. Before they fought with the Royal Navy, 3 ships sank in the sea area, which made the flagship very angry. Not only that, a thick water tornado appeared in the vortex below and rolled towards Rudolph. Faced with the rockets with tail flames and the waterspouts, Rudolph was really angry. Isn't it just to sink your 3 ships? Why is it so relentless? More than 50 rockets, and the Pisces wizard's waterspouts, one can die if he is not careful. Cooper on the shore noticed Rudolph in the air. Rudolph was actually targeted by so many rockets, which frightened him. On the flagship of the Alchemy Navy, the ascetic priest Nancy did not pay attention to the Royal Navy, but looked to the side. There is the furnace Rudolph there. This time, the furnace Rudolph should die, right? Rudolph's heart was beating with sparks again. It was too much of a burden to use the Lion King spark in the water, so he chose to meet these attacks in the air. Among those deadly rockets, there were level 4 rockets and several level 5 rockets. In an instant, a fierce light suddenly appeared around Rudolph. In the Lion King spark, the power beyond the 4th level apostle directly vaporized the rockets and waterspouts. Rockets, weapons full of explosives, are more easily destroyed by sparks. Just a little bit of high temperature can detonate these rockets. The rockets exploded one after another in the high temperature. More than 50 consecutive explosions made an explosion group like a red grape appear here. After the explosion, there was thick smoke, which obscured everyone's vision. Is the wizard dead? The people on the ship hoped that the rockets could make a contribution and eliminate the hateful wizard. Did the wizard Rudolph also die? Kedrick and Ursula looked at each other and saw the regret in each other's eyes. Even such a treacherous wizard died in absolute violence. Only Cooper and Yvonne looked at the terrible fire grapes with expectation. The waterspout just now had already exploded into water splashes in the continuous explosions and fell back into the sea. A figure suddenly appeared, changed the appearance of the rolling smoke, and continued to fly to the shore. The Lion King's sparks were jets of plasma, so they saved Rudolph's life in this terrible series of explosions. Rudolph flew to the shore without stopping. He turned around only when he stood on a reef. The second Pisces wizard had not let him go. Are you still chasing? Rudolph looked down at the undulating sea. If you chase me again, I will be on the shore. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 334. Are you really not afraid of death? Standing on the rocks on the shore, Rudolph looked down at the people emerging from the sea. This is another Pisces wizard. At this time, he is soaked in the sea water from the bridge of his nose. The waves make the sea water keep rising and falling. No matter how high or low the sea water is, he only shows a pair of dead fish eyes. The whites of his eyes are much larger than the pupils. Facing Rudolph's shouting, the Pisces wizard seemed not to hear him, and just stared at Rudolph with his rolled eyes. Seeing the water flowing in and out of his ears, Rudolph suddenly remembered a theory. For people who have been active underwater all year round, Their eardrums will be damaged due to the water pressure under the water, and they will gradually become deaf. Isn't this wizard deaf? Rudolph didn't know sign language either. He pointed at the wizard and then made a gesture of wiping his throat, which meant that he would die if he didn't leave. To be honest, Rudolph didn't want to do anything again tonight. He used Lion King's spark twice, and a lot of blood was burned away. In the next few days, Vanya and I will work out a method to replenish blood. Every time he uses the forbidden technique Lion Star Fire, the heart that has been transformed into a witchcraft will burn a lot of blood, and his body will not be able to bear it. Neither of the two people on the rocks or in the water took action, and both sides had very low willingness to fight. The naval battle in the distance was still fierce and entered its most tragic moment. The war between the knights and the alchemists had little impact on Rudolph. If the Pisces wizard in front of him is not here to fight Rudolph, Rudolph is willing to spend some time with him, even if it can relieve the discomfort of anemia. Seeing Rudolph's random gestures, the Pisces wizard raised his head completely out of the water. I am the one who wants to say this. Are you really not afraid of death? You killed my senior brother, and my teacher will not let him go. Too bad. Oh. It's so scary. If you didn't smile, I would almost believe it. I don't think you are very sad. The relationship between your senior brothers is not very good. The Pisces wizard quickly closed his mouth, not to let his mood show so obviously. He adjusted his tone before saying, "Will the wizard of the ancient sea let you go? My teacher will not let you go. You'd better stay away from the sea for the rest of your life, otherwise, when you are in the middle of the Sarah ancient sea, you will die." Logically speaking, the Pisces wizard should see fear on Rudolph's face, but he did not, because Rudolph looked very confused. The Ancient Sea Wizards Association? What kind of organization is this? Can I join? This ancient sea should refer to the Sarago Sea near the equator. In other words, there is a group of wizards who formed an organization on the Sarago Sea. They seem to be very powerful on the Sarago Sea. The Pisces wizard in front of him thought that as long as he revealed the name of the Wizarding Society, Rudolph would be able to surrender. You are the knight's lackey, how can you join the Wizarding Society? First, I am not a knight's lackey. Second, is the alchemist's lackey the most noble purebred lackey in the world? I don't understand, what are you proud of? Why, do wizards only recruit purebred lackeys? Both these brothers served in the Alchemist Alliance Navy, and Rudolph felt that they were not much better than him. The Pisces wizard was not angry because of Rudolph's sarcasm. Before I came, a witch hunter happened to board the flagship. She told me your information, which my senior brother did not know. I know that you are a level 4 wizard who is preparing to go to the southern continent. I am here to talk to you. Make a deal. What deal? You tell me the secret formula of the southern sky constellation that you know, and I will fake the illusion that you were killed by me so that you will not be hunted down by our Ancient Sea Wizards Association. Rudolph was stunned. This was the second unknown noun he heard tonight. Southern Constellation Secret Formula? It seems to be related to becoming a wizard in the south, but what is this secret formula? Port Coder and Fabreau City are more than 1,000 kilometers apart. The difference between the two places is so huge that Rudolph feels like a country bumpkin who just entered the city and knows nothing. Why don't you tell me the secrets of the southern constellations you know? Faced with Rudolph's provocation, the Pisces wizard responded quickly, "Humph. The secret formula of the southern sky constellation is the top secret knowledge of our wizard association. It is important information related to becoming a level 5 wizard. How can I tell you?" Rudolph narrowed his eyes slightly and began to guess what this secret formula was. It is no secret that wizards can be promoted in the witchcraft making ceremony by knowing the appropriate witchcraft language and using high-level relics to create a witchcraft weapon. For this reason, wizards have become a being that everyone shouts about. Among the 12 zodiac signs, Rudolph has only the last one, Capricorn, to learn. He needs to wait until January of Capricorn to make it. Once all 12 constellations have been learned, the collection of witchcraft for the 12 constellations of the zodiac has been completed, and there are no new constellations to learn for the 12 constellations of the zodiac. In the future, making more witchcraft weapons will only mean learning more witchcraft languages of a certain constellation. The Pisces wizard just said that the secret formula of the southern constellation involves the key to becoming a level 5 wizard. In other words, the secret formula is not like the news that everyone knows that the wizard makes a high-level magic weapon and will be successfully promoted. It is knowledge that is kept secret among wizards. In other words, Rudolph cannot become a level 5 wizard by making a level 5 wizard weapon. Alas, after leaving Fabreau City, Rudolph felt more and more confused. This was the disadvantage of not having a master. He actually needed to slowly explain these important knowledge to an enemy. He could not judge at all whether it was true or false. In the opinion of this Pisces wizard, the level 4 wizard who wants to go to the southern continent must be a wizard who has mastered the secret technique. But unfortunately, this was indeed the first time Rudolph heard this term. Rudolph looked at the Pisces wizard who was chasing after him, and suddenly said, "If I guessed correctly, the wizard gave your senior brother the secret formula of the southern sky constellation, but poor you, you don't have such treatment. So after your senior brother died, why are you so unwilling to come to me to ask about the secrets of the southern zodiac signs?" Judging from the narrowed pupils of the Pisces wizard, Rudolph knew that he had guessed correctly. It seemed that in that wizarding society, the secrets of the southern constellations were not just knowledge granted casually. The Pisces wizard's voice was cold, as if he had recalled some bad memories, and he emphasized again, "Give me the secret formula of the southern sky constellation, and I will protect you from being hunted by the wizards. I will not say it a third time. You are a young member of the Wizarding Association, I will report you to the Guhe Wizarding Association." Rudolph estimated his star power and estimated that he could still use the Lion Star Fire twice. When Rudolph's eyes turned cold, the Pisces wizard's body sank unconsciously. The iron bat's wings fanned back, and Rudolph dived towards the Pisces wizard. The Pisces wizard had already prepared a vortex at his feet. When Rudolph rushed down, the Pisces wizard had already sunk into the sea. After entering the sea again, Rudolph found that the Pisces wizard sank directly into the sand and disappeared. It seems that this wizard has the ability to move in the sea and sand, which may be a combination of water witch language and earth witch language. This also extinguished Rudolph's desire to continue the pursuit. At this time, Rudolph showed signs of fatigue. He did not want to fight to the death with the Pisces wizard here. He also wanted to retain his strength to face the knight or alchemist who was about to win. It would be better if the knight wins, but if the alchemist wins, he will still have to go through a hard fight. Whether he can get his ship is still unknown. I just hope that the knights can be more powerful as their ancestors, and worthy of their ancestors. The shock detection quickly lost its target, and the Pisces wizard fled to the deep sea. Everyone is selfish. For the sake of a possible secret formula, this Pisces wizard even ignored the coalition navy. He was anxious to go back and catch the naval battle. Rudolph felt that this trip to the southern continent would not be easy. In order to become a level 5 wizard, he still had to prepare a lot. He suddenly remembered Ms. Windsor, the guide of the Black Gold Institute in Fabreau City. She had been a level 4 wizard for a long time and had not come to the southern continent to seek promotion opportunities. A large organization like the Black Gold Institute will not be stingy with core members like Ms. Windsor. Becoming a level 5 wizard must be more difficult than imagined, otherwise Ms. Windsor would not have stayed in the remote city of Fabreau for so many years. After scaring away the Pisces wizard, Rudolph goes to find Cooper and Yvonne. At this time, the second ship, the 80-gun ship, had been towed to the shore, and Cooper was directing the corpse to drain the ship. Mackenzie had already told Cooper about the dangers of water entering the ship's hull. A few low-level cancer wizards alone were not fast enough. Many corpses were draining water using the water basins found in the ship. The entire ship was a busy scene. The corpse of the level 4 giant is not here. The third ship has also wrapped the druid seaweed rope and is dragging it to the shore. Cooper couldn't sweat, but Rudolph saw heat on the top of Cooper's head. Poor Cooper, being the biggest coolie tonight, is really exhausted. Rudolph first went to the first 60-gun ship and saw Mackenzie recording something in a notebook. Yvonne is supervising Mackenzie, and is also asking Mackenzie for some ship knowledge, which is important and will help them cross the Sarago Sea. Mr. Rudolph, seeing Rudolph come back intact, Mackenzie behaved very well. Mr. Rudolph, I am taking stock of the things that need to be paid attention to when repairing this ship. Rudolph was delighted with how quickly Mackenzie got to work. Mackenzie. Rudolph looked at Mackenzie's lowered head and said after hesitation. When the two armies went to war, I served the Royal Navy and you served the Alchemy Alliance. I have no guilt in capturing this ship and causing the death of the crew. The crew on this ship must have a close relationship with you. After the repair is completed, the ship will let you go. I will fulfill my promise, and you will live. Mackenzie looked up and glanced at Rudolph. He was a little puzzled that the dangerous wizard in front of him actually put himself in his shoes for once. From Mackenzie's point of view, all the crew members on the ship were dead, and there might be Mackenzie's friends among them. Mackenzie must be in an extremely bad mood at this time. Pretending to be busy is just deceiving the wizard and numbing yourself. However, the wizard who knew all this did not seem to blame himself. Mr. Rudolph, I did not lie to you about one thing. I used to be a pirate captain and a young pirate in the Carolingian waters. In order to stabilize the rear after the expedition, the Carolingian Navy cleared the sea before departure. Pirate. I didn't do much evil, and my wanted level was very low, so I was captured and added to the navy that was short of men. I don't have much affection for the people on this ship. Rudolph nodded. No matter what the situation is, you can leave in a few days. Mackenzie said nothing and continued to do his work. But he no longer panicked and became much more normal. Rudolph signaled to Yvonne that she no longer needed to follow Mackenzie, and the two of them stood on the bridge, watching the end of the naval battle in the distance. At this time, the ships of both sides were completely mixed together on the sea. There was no charge, and there was fighting on the deck of each ship. The knights entered the boarding battle that they were best at. The ships of the Royal Navy were generally higher than those of the coalition forces, which was to facilitate boarding during the boarding battle. There were also magic arrays on the alchemical ships for boarding battles. The losses of both sides reached their peak at this time, and the sailors were dying quickly. From time to time, people fell into the sea on the ships. Some were frightened by the blood, and some were smashed by the knights. The sea was also not calm, and there were also apostles who fell into the water in the harvesting place. After watching for more than 10 minutes, there was a sound of horse hooves in the distance, and Kedrick and Ursula were rushing here with the cavalry. Mr. Rudolph. Please raise the golden anchor flag on these 3 ships. The cavalry carried 3 thick flags stacked together. This is a psychological offensive. The change of the flag can tell the alchemical coalition that these 3 alchemical ships have been captured by the Royal Navy. The cavalrymen were extremely anxious and moved quickly, raising 3 flags. Looking at the flags flying, Rudolph and Kedrick on the side said, for the sake of victory in the war, the 3 ships are temporarily flying your flags, but one of them is mine. I understand, I will definitely keep my promise. Kedrick did everything he could, and now he relaxed. He said, Mr. Rudolph, you don't need to be on guard against us all the time. We are not that scary. Rudolph didn't say much. The young Kedrick knew nothing about the knight's shamelessness. When the 3 ships hung the golden anchor flag, the momentum of the local battlefield closest to the coast changed drastically. The nearest dozen ships saw the situation here. Judging from the ship type, They were obviously 3 Carolingian naval ships, but now they were flying the golden anchor flag. Several Royal Navy ships were more powerful, and the coalition ships even separated a ship to guard against the 3 captured ships. No one knew that the 3 ships could only move slowly because there were giant corpses dragging the ships under the sea. These 3 ships were just showpieces and could not fire a single shot. On the local battlefield in front of them, the Royal Navy had gained an advantage, and this advantage was slowly affecting the entire battlefield. Half an hour later, the Alchemy Alliance left more than half of the sunken ships and evacuated the sea area. In this battle, the Alchemy Alliance lost a total of 18 ships. Although they sank more Royal Navy ships, they failed to impact the coastal defense artillery until the end. After the loss of ships, the firepower was greatly reduced and it was impossible to form an overwhelming advantage. If the battle continued, the disadvantage would only become greater and greater. At least the Carolingian Navy was unwilling to turn this naval battle into the worst one-for-one situation. Kedrick roared happily, without the calmness of the Earl's son. Rudolph also breathed a sigh of relief. In the end, the knight won. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 335. The war was over, and with the help of tugboats, the 3 captured ships were slowly moving into the port. These 3 Carolingian ships, 1 80-gun ship and 2 60-gun ships, became the biggest spoils of this battle. The Royal Navy was very busy cleaning up the wreckage and salvaging the bodies. Compared with the horrible wreckage on the sea, these 3 ships were very eye-catching. The Carolingian-shaped ships entered the port amid the cheers of the Royal Navy soldiers. There was nothing more exciting than capturing 3 Carolingian ships. Mackenzie had reported the situation of the 3 ships to Rudolph. The 3rd ship had the most serious damage to its hull. This 60-gun ship had been hit by many Royal Navy guns, and finally the explosion caused by the spark damaged some of its internal structures. It can still be used after repair, but according to Mackenzie, this ship will have some problems in the future. The 2nd ship was an 80-gun ship, which was less damaged. The main problem was that it had been in the water for too long. Cooper took a long time to drag the ship out of the seabed, and the steam turbine needed a lot of effort to repair. The chimney of this ship was higher than the other 2. When the ship sank, the chimney was knocked crooked, but the others were fine. The 1st ship captured by Rudolph was in the best condition and the easiest to repair. After the 3 ships docked, Rudolph and his men came to the deck of the 80-gun ship and carefully inspected the ship. This ship represents the highest mechanical level of alchemists at present and is the main ship of the Carolingian Navy. Not only did Rudolph and his men come to the ship, but the engineers of the Royal Navy also couldn't wait to check the steam turbine. They believed that the steam turbine was the most important part of a ship. These steam engines were made of alchemical metals, and engineers would also use alchemical power to repair them when they were repaired. Looking at the enthusiastic appearance of more than a dozen engineers, it seems that the prospects are very optimistic. Rudolph followed the engineer to the engine room for a brief look and then returned to the deck. He felt safer in a place where he could see the sky and the sea, and the closed engine room made him feel depressed. Soon, some high-ranking officials of the Royal Navy also boarded the largest trophy. Kedrick mixed in with the officers, and judging from his position, he was not the most senior among the visitors. "Hello, Mr. Rudolph, I am the Chief of Staff of the Royal Navy's Golden Anchor Fleet, Rear Admiral Alberto." "Major General, this is already a very senior officer, 2 levels higher than Colonel Gayton that Rudolph had met. Above the Colonel is the Brigadier General, and above the Brigadier General is the Major General." "Hello, Major General Alberto." Rudolph knew that they were here to negotiate terms, and silently waited for the Major General to speak first. "Mr. Rudolph, I know that Master Kedrick promised that the Earl's castle would exchange a captured ship for your action last night. I have to say that this is a bold and smart decision. If we captured a ship, it would be very difficult to give it to you. Ships are very important military equipment. But you captured 3 ships yourself. Your underwater combat power is very strong. Your participation in the war has relieved a large part of our pressure. The tone is very respectful, but disgust is written on his face. Major General Alberto tacitly did not point out Rudolph's identity. The identity of a wizard is not glorious, and cooperating with wizards is not a good thing. Only nobles like Viscount Paulus who have been dealing with the grey world for many years can be very relaxed in negotiating deals with wizards. It's a bit dangerous, but the result is good. Rudolph really wants to find someone to ask about the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. The Major General in front of him is not a good person to talk to. He only has ships and the navy in his eyes. Viscount Paulus is a better person to ask. He must know more than this Major General. Unfortunately, Viscount Paulus has not returned to Cotter Port. Promises are more important than anything else for nobles. Master Kedrick made a promise to you on behalf of the Earl's castle, and this promise will definitely be fulfilled. But this means that the situation has changed. Alberto stared at Rudolph's eyes. He did not see any panic in Rudolph's eyes, which made him a little disappointed. But I carefully asked Master Kedrick. He promised a captured ship, but did not promise which ship it was. Rudolph glanced at Kedrick and found that Kedrick's face was blue and purple. Last night, Kedrick told Rudolph that there was no need to be overly wary of knights, and he would definitely let the Earl's castle fulfill its promise. Now Kedrick finally knew that Rudolph's caution was justified. At this moment, Kedrick's dignity was trampled on. Someone took advantage of his promise and took advantage of the loopholes in the promise, which was tantamount to a naked slap in the face for the nobles. Major General Alberto would not care about the face of the 4th son of an earl. Compared with the Royal Navy, someone's face is not worth mentioning. Rudolph was standing on the 80-gun ship at this time. This was his attitude. He wanted the largest ship, but the Royal Navy didn't want to give it to him. Major General Alberto, the situation was urgent at that time. You were surrounded by the navy of the Alchemy Alliance. Although it is a bit offensive to say this, you were at a disadvantage at that time. Master Kedrick is a noble nobleman. He moved me with his sincerity. I couldn't bear to be picky in that situation. I didn't have time to confirm the specific content of the promise, and I launched an attack on the Alchemy Alliance's ships without hesitation. Kedrick, who had just been covered in dust, finally looked better and regained some of his face. Being praised for being noble and sincere is always the proudest thing for nobles. Alberto's expression remained unchanged. In addition to being noble and sincere, Master Kedrick has another extraordinary quality, that is decisiveness. The command center is impressed by Master Kedrick's request for your help at that critical moment. He is worthy of being the descendant of the Golden Anchor family. Following Rudolph's words, Alberto also praised Kedrick a few times, but he did not make concessions. Rudolph continued. Major General Alberto, only dirty alchemists would haggle over every penny. They mix cheaper lead and tin into copper coins. They even want to completely abolish metal currency and easily plunder other people's wealth with unlimited printed paper money. I think the Count's castle of Golden Anchor will definitely show its generosity. The dangers I encountered in the battle are worth an 80-gun ship. You also saw that I encountered the enemy's Pisces wizard in the sea water, which is the home of the Pisces wizard. I almost died in the sea water. After that, dozens of rockets were aimed at me. I also shed blood for the Count's castle, didn't I? Alberto looked at the difficult wizard in front of him. The wizard's words made Alberto unable to fight back. However, these words are not that important. Even if he used force and even if he tore up his promise, Alberto would not give up this ship. The 80-gun ship is the main naval warship of the Carolingian Kingdom Navy. There are many new alchemist arrays and many weapon secrets here. It is impossible to give up. An 80-gun ship is much more valuable than a 60-gun ship. Moreover, the Royal Navy suffered heavy losses and urgently needed to replenish its forces, so this ship could not be abandoned. Rudolph saw the coldness in Alberto's eyes. Such a senior officer would never give in for the sake of core interests. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost tense, Rudolph suddenly changed his words and said, "But, if the Royal Navy wants this 80-gun ship, it must say that Master Kedrick's promise was neglected. I cherish my friendship with Master Kedrick and am willing to make concessions for this friendship." Alberto suddenly raised his eyebrows. This wizard was so smart. If he asked for more, Alberto would be ready to use force. There was no moral pressure to attack a wizard. "It's totally fine for me to give in, but I need some small compensation. I wonder if Major General Alberto can agree to it. Tell it out. If it doesn't violate Master Kedrick's promise and can satisfy both parties, it would be the best." Rudolph's face showed no reluctance after giving in. He said slowly, "I can take the 60-gun ship next to it, but there is a condition. When I go to the South Continent, I hope you can dispatch a level 4 knight to go with me and escort me to the South Continent. It's really troublesome to deal with cunning wizards." Alberto was in trouble again. There are indeed more than a dozen level 4 knights in the Golden Anchor fleet, and each of them is so precious. In this tense war, it is impossible to let such a level 4 knight leave the battlefield. But think about it again, this condition is not very harsh. It takes about 40 days to go to the South Continent for a round trip. A level 4 knight makes a trip and gets an 80-gun ship in return. This business is not a loss. Bargaining high and paying down. At the beginning, Rudolph had never thought of getting these 80 ships. The help that this ship provided to Rudolph at sea was far less practical than that provided by a level 4 knight. A level 4 knight can burst out the combat power of a level 5 apostle, and anyone who uses it knows it. This is Rudolph's core appeal. Even though Alberto looked ugly, Rudolph did not give in. If the news about the Wizard Association is true, then this Wizard Association with Pisces wizards as the core is a huge threat to Rudolph, and it is difficult for him to fight against such an organization with his own strength. In order to convince Alberto, Rudolph also calculated the accounts for him. "You are in urgent need of ships now. In the naval battle last night, you lost more than 20 ships, and only more than 10 ships are left, which is more than the level 4 knights. A short escort of a level 4 knight in exchange for an 80-gun ship and a 60-gun ship, this is such a profitable business. Use a temporarily wealthy level 4 knight to send me a trip, you will not suffer any loss, and you can also fulfill Master Kedrick's promise." The people on the deck fell into silence, and the knocking sound of the steam turbine in the engine room reached the deck, mixed with the shouts of the alchemist engineer, all of which made the people of the Royal Navy itch in their hearts. The temptation of this ship is too great. Alberto glanced at Master Kedrick. The Golden Anchor fleet was named after the family emblem of Count Palu, and half of the ships in the fleet belonged to the Count of Golden Anchor Castle. This fleet is the fleet of the Royal Navy. In such a major event, it is impossible to fully consider the face of the fourth son of an earl. Kedrick noticed Albert's gaze, and he spoke at the right time and said the suggestion he had been thinking about for a long time. "Major General Albert, I know your difficulties. A level 4 knight is at least a lieutenant colonel or even a colonel in the Restoration Army. Let me provide a new idea. Why don't we go to see the butler Mr. Wendler? The Golden Anchor Earl Castle has a huge manor in the southern continent, the Dock Manor, which is rich in wine. We can try to talk to the butler Mr. Wendler and send a patrol butler to patrol the manor in the southern continent, which just meets Mr. Rudolph's needs. The patrol butler of the Earl's Castle is at least a retired level 4 knight, which can meet Mr. Rudolph's needs, will not embarrass the Royal Navy, and will not affect the Royal Navy's combat effectiveness. The Earl is the owner of the castle, and the steward is the controller of the castle. The stewards of the Earl of Golden Anchor Castle are divided into the castle steward, the traveling steward and the manor steward. Mr. Wendler, the chief butler, has the same powers as the Earl in his absence. The itinerant steward inspects various huge properties on behalf of the Earl, while the manor steward is the actual person in charge of the properties in each place. The roving butler's plan seemed to be a way to get the best of both worlds, but Alberto fell into new hesitation. If this plan is implemented, it means that the Earl's castle has paid a price for the Royal Navy and improved the Royal Navy's combat effectiveness. The Royal Navy must also make concessions for the Earl's castle in other places. Rudolph was right. Kedrick was indeed an ambitious man, because what he said next made Rudolph a little surprised. Kedrick continued. Commodore Alberto, I have long wanted to join the Royal Navy and dedicate my loyalty to His Majesty the King. We suffered heavy losses after the fierce battle. If I can serve His Majesty the King on this 80-gun ship, I am confident that I will become a qualified Royal Navy sailor. My father would have been delighted to see me as a Royal Navy sailor when he came back. For this reason, I am willing to convince Butler Wendler, and he will agree to this matter. Use a promise to persuade a level 4 wizard to take action, exchange a tour of the estate by the itinerant steward for the appointment of Major General Alberto, and as for becoming a sailor, just listen. Kedrick joins the Royal Navy, at least starting as a captain. Kedrick may even become a major directly because of his outstanding contributions. From beginning to end, Kedrick did nothing, but let everyone get what they wanted. Even Rudolph felt that he should thank Kedrick. Is this the art of nobility? Rudolph felt that he was not as thoughtful as young Kedrick. Just when Alberto made up his mind and was about to make the final decision, another group of people boarded 80 ships. Rudolph looked at the visitor and saw that it was an officer and his entourage. Looking at his epaulets, he turned out to be a brigadier general. Commodore Caleb. Except for Alberto, all the officers on the deck saluted Commodore Caleb. Brigadier General Caleb, Kedrick's eldest brother, the Earl's eldest son, and the first heir to the Earl's title, was approaching step by step. An officer quickly came up behind Caleb and whispered to Caleb what had just happened. Caleb glanced at Kedrick with surprised eyes. His brother had grown up a lot and actually knew how to plan for himself. It was really surprising. Kedrick looked ugly at this moment. The help he could get from the Earl's castle, Caleb could do the same, or even be simpler. All of Kedrick's plans may fail. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 336. Facing the Earl's heir, Major General Alberto needs to be respectful. Commodore Caleb, do you also know the whole story of these 3 captured ships? Yes, Major General Alberto, these 3 Carolingian ships are so eye-catching. And the largest and most valuable of these 3 ships is undoubtedly this 80-gun ship. After Caleb came in, he did not look at his brother Kedrick, but looked at Rudolph. Mr. Rudolph, the adjutant has told me about your heroic deeds. On behalf of the Earl's Castle of Golden Anchor, I would like to express my sincere gratitude. I also know the suggestions made by my dear brother. Caleb smiled gently. You don't need to go to Mr. Butler for this matter. I can make the decision. The Earl's Castle will send a patrol butler to visit the Dock Manor in the southern continent. The patrol butler can provide you with protection along the way. Are you satisfied with this solution? Very satisfied. Rudolph got what he wanted, the Royal Navy got what they wanted, and Commodore Caleb in front of him also got what he wanted. Only Kedrick seemed to have done everything and nothing. He received several compliments from others, which were so sincere and useless. Rear Admiral Alberto smiled at Rudolph and left the deck. It saved a lot of trouble to arrange for a Count's son to join the Royal Navy. From the moment Caleb appeared, all of Kedrick's actions became the actions of the Count's castle, and had little to do with him personally. This is the art of nobility. Others left one after another, only Kedrick did not leave. Kedrick felt that the smell of the sea breeze was so bad, with lingering sulfur and burnt smells. Rudolph tried to invite Kedrick. "Master Kedrick, if you are willing, come and sit on our ship." Kedrick nodded mechanically. At this time, he didn't want to go anywhere. The wizard's ship made him feel more comfortable than the Count's palace. He couldn't imagine what version of this matter would become in the mouths of others: a bold and lucky reckless master? A useless master who had to rely on his eldest brother to make the final decision? Or is he a fool who tried his best but was seen through by his elder brother at a glance? When everyone else walked away, Rudolph apologized. "I'm sorry, Master Kedrick, Commodore Caleb has the final say. Under the circumstances at the time, it was not convenient for me to fight for anything for you. I know, this is not your problem. I want to thank you. If it weren't for you, it would take me a long time to enter other people's vision. At least I made some achievements last night, which also made my future path much smoother. When I turn 16 next year and join the army, others may find out that I have done something special here." That's what he said, but Kedrick's face was not good. When they left the 80-gun ship, they saw Ursula waiting for Kedrick on the plank road. "Master Kedrick, I just saw the Commodore boarded the ship. I wanted to inform you, but was stopped by the Commodore's attendant." Kedrick returned to his sunny and decent smile and said to Ursula, "It's okay, the problem has been perfectly solved." Several people changed the plank road and boarded the 60-gun ship next to them. The shells and gunpowder on the deck were flooded and could not be used. They had been cleared by engineers. There was no problem with the cannons. Several alchemy engineers were checking the cannons one by one. There were 2 tall black chimneys on the ship. When the ship started, the 2 chimneys would spew thick smoke. There was a huge paddle wheel on each side of the center of the hull. The power generated by the steam engine would be sent to the 2 paddle wheels, which would paddle the sea water and drive the ship forward. The upper part of the paddle wheel, that is, the part exposed to the air, was protected by an iron cover to prevent the paddle wheel from being damaged. There was a bridge connecting the 2 paddle wheel protective covers, which was the place where the captain or pilot would look out in the future. Rudolph looked at the excited Cooper on the side. "Captain Cooper, how does it feel to stand on the bridge?" "Great. This big toy is much more interesting than the circus." Rudolph thought Cooper was the most suitable to be the captain. His zombies could work in the cabin below, without food or rest, and were perfect coolies. In the future, the bridge, deck, and first-floor cabins will be areas for living people to move around, and the remaining 3 floors of cabins will be the working areas for zombies. Kedrick also smiled, but only he knew how bitter he felt in his heart. Such a powerful ship is just a big toy for these heretics. If this ship is given to him, he will definitely become a qualified captain. After blowing the sea breeze on the bridge for a while, several people went down to the first-floor cabin. The cabins here have windows, which are where the crew live. It turned out that the wet and dirty bedding of the sailors was piled up, waiting to be transported away. The Royal Navy might find these supplies useful, but Cooper is ready to replace them with new ones, since Rudolph has plenty of money anyway. The second-floor cabin is the combat zone, with cannons on both sides. The shells and gunpowder have been damaged, and the cannons can be used after processing. Will my zombies operate the cannons here in the future? That will be very stressful. Cooper said that he was under great pressure, but his face was full of interest. The third-floor cabin is also a combat zone, and there are also artillery here. The good news is that the hatch of this floor is very strong, and the soaking time is short, and the seawater has not entered the third-floor cabin. The bottom cabin is the ship's warehouse, where some coal and supplies are stored. This is the general layout of the ship. There are many small rooms inside, such as equipment rooms, which require Cooper to learn slowly. They finally rushed to the most important engine room. At this time, there were more than a dozen alchemy engineers busy in the engine room. These engineers were all engineers of the Royal Navy, and Mackenzie was supervising these engineers here. Seeing Rudolph coming over, Mackenzie put down the parts in his hand. "Mr. Rudolph, the steam turbine is in good condition and should be repaired in another week." "Okay, thank you for your hard work, Mr. Mackenzie." According to the agreement with Mackenzie, he will be free after the steam turbine is repaired. "Mr. Rudolph, how are you going to drive this ship away?" This question asked Rudolph's pain point. This was his first time riding a large steam ship, and he didn't know how to drive the ship. "Mr. Rudolph, my suggestion is that we recruit a group of crew members as soon as possible." "I have the same idea, but you said we." Mackenzie no longer concealed. "Mr. Rudolph, I think I can be the first mate of this ship. I don't want to go back to the Carolingian kingdom, where I will either continue to be a pirate or go fishing, which is not what I want." Before Rudolph spoke, Cooper spoke first. "That's great. My ship is in need of a first mate." Cooper now only has the title of captain, and knows nothing about sailing and ships. He really needs a helper. Rudolph felt that Mackenzie's attitude had always been good, so he agreed to Mackenzie's request. "Very good, we now have a captain and a first mate. Captain Cooper, next you and first mate Mackenzie go to recruit crew members together." After saying that, Rudolph wanted to turn around and leave, but Cooper stretched out his hand to stop him. He asked in confusion, "Huh? What's wrong? Give me money." "Give me what money?" "Money for recruiting crew members." Old Gray didn't leave Cooper anything decent, just some corpses, not to mention more money. Rudolph had to take out the space wallet. "This is 2,000 gold shields, first mate Mackenzie, are these enough?" Mackenzie began to count: second mate, navigator, bosun, chief engineer, first engineer, second engineer, purser, cook. If you add the supplies needed by the ship, it's far from enough. Rudolph reluctantly took out another 2,000 gold shields. The war stopped maritime trade, and most of the crew members in Cotterport lost their jobs. In the past 1 or 2 months, I think we are the only ones recruiting workers, and these seafarers are not difficult to find. So, is it enough? Enough? Mr. Rudolph, you are so smart." Cooper and Mackenzie took the money that was not theirs and spent it with great interest. Rudolph and Yvonne were also preparing to leave the ship, but Kedrick and Ursula followed behind them. Facing Rudolph's puzzled look, Kedrick said, "Oh, there's nowhere I want to go. Why don't I go to your place and sit down?" Rudolph knew that Kedrick didn't want to go back to the Earl's palace. It's good to follow him. The title of the Earl's fourth son is not very useful to Major General Alberto and others, but it's different for those alchemy engineers, which can make them pay more attention to the work in their hands. Rudolph deliberately came to the supplies department at the port first and looked at the things that were going to be loaded on their ships. Those low-level officers were really concerned when they saw Kedrick, and they allocated some better things to Rudolph on the spot. Everything is valuable, and Rudolph walked towards the cabin by the sea with satisfaction. On the way back to the cabin, Kedrick couldn't hide his irritation and couldn't help asking, "Mr. Rudolph, you are so active, decisive, and courageous. If you were me, what would you do if you encountered today's situation?" Well, this question is difficult. Rudolph thought about it carefully and felt it was very tricky. "You have done it perfectly. Both I and Major General Alberto agree with your suggestion. A roving butler perfectly solves many problems. I have been guaranteed safety, and the Major General does not need to lose combat power. The only problem with all this is that you need to convince the castle butler to agree to send a manor butler to the southern continent, which is also the key to the problem. Brigadier General Caleb's advantage is that he can really send a roving butler. He is the first heir and has this power. Just one step away, which made a huge difference in the outcome. Rear Admiral Alberto could thank Brigadier General Caleb instead of you. Your plan to join the Royal Navy was forced to stop. There is a big difference between becoming a naval captain because of the Earl's order and becoming a naval captain because of your merit. You can't go to the Earl to complain, because that means exposing the discord between your brothers to the Earl and others. No matter who is right or wrong, your character has flaws in the Earl's eyes, and the gain does not outweigh the loss. If I were you, I couldn't stand this. Shouting, "Don't bully the poor young man, run away from home. Get promoted again and again in danger, and then come back to slap your big brother's face. What level of knight is your big brother? Level 4 knight. Oh, then wait until I become a level 5 or even a level 6 knight before coming back, so I'm not afraid that he won't serve you coffee obediently." Ursula said quickly at the side, "This is absolutely not allowed. The young master cannot run away from home. How could the Earl's fourth son, a scion of the noble Golden Anchor family, run away from home?" Rudolph became more and more excited as he spoke. "Think about it, if you go around saying that your eldest brother bullies you, how bad will everyone think of you? If you say nothing and run away from home, then everyone will be curious, why did the good fourth Earl run away from home? You leave a trustworthy person to secretly publicize what happened today. Once others find out, it turns out that it was your elder brother who bullied you and took credit for your achievements. You have nowhere to express your grievances. And during the war, you have to take the overall situation into consideration. You don't want to at this critical moment. I got stuck with my eldest brother, so I had no choice but to run away. In this way, you expressed your anger reasonably, and more importantly, you disgusted your elder brother. Do you think it is perfect or not?" Kedrick was so smart and continued, "Wouldn't it be more perfect if I followed you away from home and could provide you with a layer of protection?" Rudolph was so thick-skinned that he didn't feel any shame when Kedrick saw through his true purpose and continued. "You are wrong, you did not run away from home with me, you ran away from home with the roving butler of the Earl's castle. Don't forget, Brigadier General Caleb has promised to let a roving butler go to the southern continent with me. Anyway, you are under 16 and not old enough to leave the castle, so why not come with me? There is no chance here. For you, this not only provides security, but also allows you to learn about the Golden Anchor family's business in the southern continent. Killing two birds with one stone, you win. You win too, Mr. Rudolph. Then who do you think lost?" Kedrick thought for a while and said, "If the operation is good, then if my eldest brother loses, he will have a reputation of ostracizing his brothers." Clever. Kedrick's eyes flickered. If he was leaving with the traveling steward, there was no need to worry about safety. A level 4 knight was a very strong apostle on both sides of the Salago Sea. It makes sense in name, and it's not too much to go and see the family business in the southern continent. "Okay. I'll follow you then." Ursula on the side was stunned. Did the wizard Rudolph just use some witchcraft? Why is the young master running away from home now? Kedrick quickly said to Ursula, "Ursula, you must support me. Otherwise I will go crazy here." Seeing that there was no longer any sadness in Kedrick's eyes, Rudolph knew that his goal had been achieved. Kedrick said, "I asked the palace to send food and wine. I have been living in the temporary camp next to you these days. I don't like to go back to the Count's palace anyway." "That's right, retreat in order to advance, let them worry." Rudolph secretly rejoiced in his heart and kidnapped Kedrick, not afraid that the itinerant steward of Earl Golden Anchor's castle would not help. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 337. Nairn, the traveling steward of the Earl of Golden Anchor Castle and a former retired colonel of the Royal Marines, wore a tuxedo and entered Commodore Caleb's captain's room. Seeing Master Caleb, Butler Nairn quickly saluted. The young Master Caleb in front of him represents the future of Earl Golden Anchor's castle, with a bright future and a great future. Master Caleb's ships achieved dazzling results in naval battles, and Master Caleb himself even killed the commander of the enemy's left-wing fleet. He has enough military merit to become a rear admiral. He just needs to wait for a suitable military position to become a rear admiral in the Royal Navy. And a suitable military position will appear after the Earl returns. Unfortunately, Caleb had just been promoted to level 4 knight, and this naval battle failed to upgrade him again. The promotion of a knight requires the madness of risking one's life, which is very mentally draining. Except in extreme circumstances, one cannot be promoted continuously in a short period of time. Caleb's eyes left the chart and looked at Nairn with a smile. "Steward Nairn, you are here." Nairn, the traveling steward, is 62 years old. Year-round exercise makes him look much younger than his actual age. Caleb's attendant handed Nairn a document that recorded information on a high-level weapon. The wanted criminal of the Carolingian kingdom, the furnace, the fire witchcraft, the ability to withstand level 4 alchemical rockets, and the ability to kill the level 4 Pisces wizard underwater. All this information means that the wizard has mastered a high-level fire weapon. A witchcraft weapon must be at least a level 5 witchcraft weapon. "Steward Nairn, this time I would like to trouble you to take a trip to the southern continent and inspect Dock Manor. Since the beginning of the war, surprise inspections of Dock Manor have been suspended. This time I just went to see if anything happened in Dock Manor. Abnormal conditions. Recently, the Royal Navy is studying the recall plan for retired officers. When the trip to the southern continent is over, I think I can recommend you a good place to go. The Alchemy Council of the Carolingian Kingdom brazenly sent out troops to prevent this war from ending in a short time. I hope you can contribute to the Count's castle in the next war. The day when the Earl of Golden Anchor becomes the Marquis of Golden Anchor is also the day when you change from Baron to Viscount." Butler Nairn put away the documents, saluted Caleb, and left. Inspecting the Dock Manor was one of his duties, and it was not worthy of the Viscount's promise made by Master Caleb. The young master did not say clearly that the witchcraft was what Master Caleb wanted. A level 5 witchcraft, not to mention Master Caleb, even the Earl would value it very much. After Steward Nairn left, another attendant entered the captain's room. Master Kedrick has never returned to the Earl's camp. He applied to Butler Wendler and wanted to live in Viscount Paulus's temporary camp on the seaside. Oh, it seems that my dear brother is still having a little temper. It doesn't matter. When he grows up, he will understand my difficulties. It is a family tradition that the family will only arrange military positions for the children at the 16-year-old coming-of-age ceremony. It is not a good thing to enter the army too early. I have seen some poor people who were frightened out of mental illness because they faced death too early. They even wanted to attack their own families after leaving the battlefield. It's a pity that my dear brother doesn't understand this. Talk to Steward Wendler and arrange the best tent for Kedrick, send the best food and wine, and send 10 maids, and also send the silver snake from the Court of Justice in Port Coder. Past. After listening to the order, the attendant quickly went to find Butler Wendler, while Caleb stared at the map in trance. He recalled the unforgettable look in Kedrick's eyes when he taught his brothers swordsmanship. During the competition between the brothers, Kedrick showed a cannibalistic attitude, which made Caleb very uncomfortable. Kedrick has had the most unruly eyes since he was a child. All the knights in the castle can see that Kedrick possesses the most precious madness of a knight and will definitely grow into a powerful knight. This is why his father took Kedrick with him, even though Kedrick is only 15 years old now. A 15-year-old level 2 knight with truly enviable talent. You have been slightly frustrated on your way to growth. I hope the wine and the maid can make you forget your sadness and soothe your injured self-esteem. The temporary camp not far from the wooden house had changed drastically in a few days. How could it be so shabby for the Earl's fourth son to live here? This was originally a temporary camp set up by Viscount Paulus, but now it has become a luxurious camp. When Rudolph came to the camp again, he saw carpets on the ground. A tent led Rudolph and the other 3 people towards the buffet. The feeling of walking on the carpet is great. The ground under the carpet is leveled, which is much more comfortable than those rocky roads along the coast. The camp was still under construction, and Rudolph also saw some servants carrying ingredients. 2 rows of freezers were filled with beef, as well as fresh vegetables that were even more luxurious than beef. 6 chefs are busy around several open-air ovens, preparing for tonight's open-air banquet. Caviar, foie gras, wine, you name it. Rudolph had a little understanding of the luxury of the Earl's castle. During this period, the Earl's castle could maintain the standard of living without decreasing. There were 3 people sitting behind the table directly opposite. To Rudolph's surprise, the one sitting in the middle was Ursula. Kedrick sat on the left of Ursula, and another woman whom Rudolph didn't know sat on Ursula's side. Sarah's right. Ursula felt like she was going to cry because Kedrick was leaning over her to talk to the woman next to Ursula. Seeing the 3 Rudolphs coming over, Ursula quickly looked at Rudolph with pleading eyes. Rudolph also noticed the woman, and a sense of familiarity annoyed Rudolph. The sea breeze blew up the black gauze, revealing the suspender fishnet jumpsuit underneath. The woman also noticed Rudolph, got up and walked towards Rudolph. Before anyone arrived, Rudolph asked about the cloying smell of perfume. Cooper next to him quickly took out a handkerchief, which was given to him by Rudolph to fight against the silver snake. It had a strong smell of perfume. Abigail still lives in Rudolph's star map. He rarely lets Abigail come out, but he also has the silver snake items made by Abigail. Before I make you into a witchcraft, you'd better get away. Silver Snake is the apostle I hate the most. If you weren't in Master Kedrick's camp, you would have been a dead person when you appeared in my sight. Just a little bit of Starfire's aura was revealed, and Rudolph's surroundings became extremely hot. Silver Snake originally wanted to do something, but found that her charm had little effect. The power of the Silver Snake that entered Rudolph's body was burned away by the spark in his heart. Cooper did not have this ability, but he had been controlled by the Silver Snake, and his disgust made him alert. Silver Snake was so sensitive to emotions that she really felt the killing intent of the wizard in front of her. She hurriedly lowered her head and retreated quickly, getting into a tent. Rudolph came to Kedrick's side and saw that there was not much obsession in Kedrick's eyes. "Don't look at me with that look. Fighting against the Silver Snake is one of the compulsory courses for nobles. The abstinence accessories on my body can keep me awake. This is the Silver Snake specially sent by the eldest brother. I am also ready to put on a good show." Kedrick didn't know why Rudolph was so hostile to Silver Snake. Just for a moment, the violent look in Forge's eyes showed that the wizard didn't mind performing a hunting relic here in public. But Kedrick will definitely stop him. The number of silver snakes is so rare that the silver snake is still of great use to the Earl's castle. Rudolph looked at the busy chefs. "These servants were given to you by your elder brother." "Yes, I am really grateful to my elder brother. He told everyone that I need wine and women now. It is really considerate, brother." There were obviously several maids around, and the food and wine were so exquisite, but neither Rudolph nor Kedrick had a smile on their faces. "Can't I really kill that silver snake? I really can't. That is an important property of the Earl's castle. I can pay. I can also pay you now to stop you from being so angry." Kedrick didn't understand Rudolph's anger that couldn't be calmed down for a long time. Only Ursula was happy, or Mr. Furnace. That woman could only hide in the tent, and it felt so good to be without that woman. Rudolph was drinking and asked a question. "Master Kedrick, do you know about the Ancient Sea Wizards Association? In the naval battle a few days ago, the last Pisces wizard threatened him with the Ancient Sea Wizard Society, and Larry did a divination. This matter was very serious. It was not the angry words of an angry person, but it would really affect Rudolph. The wizards of the ancient sea? They are dogs who have taken refuge with the alchemist, but don't worry. When we get the kingdom of Elba back, they will get in front of our knights and act as our thugs. Oh? Thug. What's the specific situation? Kedrick drank a lot of wine, and he said with a loud tongue. All apostles hate wizards. Wizards must die is not an empty statement, it is an experience gained through bloody lessons. There is also a lot of research on wizards. At a certain period, other apostles discovered that if a wizard wants to be promoted to a level 5 wizard, he must go to the southern continent, to the southern hemisphere, to a place where he can see the southern star field. The rulers at that time, that is, the royal families of various kingdoms hundreds of years ago, announced that they would use this characteristic of wizards to jointly eliminate wizards who went to the southern continent. This is difficult because wizards can use witchcraft and their abilities are very strange. Slowly, each royal family discovered that the Pisces wizard who had taken refuge with the nobles was the most effective in eradicating wizards. The Sarago Sea between the northern continent and the southern continent is the home of the Pisces wizards, and they have the ability to make waves here. With the promotion of various royal families, the Ancient Sea Wizards Association emerged to specifically eliminate wizards who went to the southern continent. Since the establishment of the Ancient Sea Wizards Association, the number of high-level wizards has greatly decreased. The northern continent belongs to the knights and alchemists, the southern continent belongs to the evil gods, and the Sara Ancient Sea between the two continents belongs to the pirates and the Ancient Sea Wizards Association. In the course of hundreds of years of development, the Ancient Sea Wizards Association has also undergone great changes. For example, they have developed a pass system. Wizards with royal backgrounds can safely travel to the southern continent. Those without royal backgrounds will be rejected by the Ancient Sea Wizards. Will kill. After the alchemist became the ruler in the constitutional war of many kingdoms, the wizards of the Ancient Sea turned to the alchemist again. So I said, if His Majesty Carloman XVI defeats the Alchemy Council, the Ancient Sea Wizards Association will definitely find a way to join His Majesty the King. Are there no wizards to deal with such traitors? Yes, there are a few wizards who were lucky enough to escape the pursuit of the Ancient Sea Wizards Association. Later, they were promoted several times and almost wiped out the Ancient Sea Wizards Association. However, the Ancient Sea Wizards Association survived those with the help of the royal family or the Alchemy Council. Crisis. This has also made the Gohei wizards become much more cautious and less aggressive than when they were first established. I see. Rudolph didn't have a teacher on the wizard's path, so he didn't know this important information. That night, Vanya took Rudolph's chess pieces to the Black Gold Institute. Tonight's transaction is still on a small fishing boat. No matter who is the owner of Cotterport, the heretics here need a place for trading. However, the frequency of transactions became very low during the war. Everyone had nothing in their hands, and the inventory was sold out long ago. Only the trading of war supplies has increased several times compared with before. As long as it is beneficial to the war, it can be quickly disposed of. Vanya sat below, watching an alchemical reinforcement circle being traded on the stage, and found it very interesting. This kind of thing can be bought and sold. I don't know where the alchemists secretly sold it to the knights for money. The most lacking thing in the Royal Navy now is the alchemy reinforcement circle. Black Elephant F wants to buy level 5 Nantian secret style. There is an avatar bat lying on Vanya's shoulder, and the scene here will be displayed in the spiritual pet crystal. The moment this purchase transaction was announced, the people in the cabin shook their bodies one after another. There was no big wave coming, they just couldn't sit still. Are all wizards today so direct? You don't even want to cover it up. Who wants to be promoted to a level 5 wizard? It's better to go to war. During the war, the Inquisition office and the Falcon attendants have no intention of hunting witches. The witches are so bold. The reaction of these people was so surprising that Rudolph knew that the southern tundra rarely appeared. No one accepted the deal, and Vanya didn't stay long, nor did he leave the Black Gold Institute. After leaving the cabin, he walked towards the guide at the stern of the ship. The guide here seemed to know what happened in the cabin just now. He looked at Vanya and shook his head. "I know that your guide is Lady Windsor of the Carolingian Kingdom, and her special mark is on the chess pieces. However, it is extremely impolite to ask about the secret formula of the southern sky constellations here." Vanya looked at the guide with doubtful eyes, and the guide continued. "In any wizard organization, the secret formula of the southern sky constellation is the most secret and precious thing. I have served the Black Gold Institute for 20 years and I have never seen a secret formula. It is impossible for the Black Gold Institute to give you secret formulas, and neither can anyone else. Secret formulas are far more precious than you think." Vanya exploded with a bang and turned into a bat and disappeared on the sea. He returned to the cabin and repeated everything he heard to Rudolph. Rudolph had a headache. He squinted slightly and looked at the star map. This golden finger didn't work either. It didn't even have a much-needed secret formula. What's the use of it? Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 338. Half a month later, when Rudolph boarded the ship again, he saw that there was already quite a crowd on the ship. The ship had its Carolingian military livery washed away and painted a grey-blue civilian livery. The ship was covered with colorful flags, which, according to Mackenzie, were not decorative but signal flags, representing all the letters of the alphabet and 10 numbers. The ship's new name, Red Bud, was written on the side of the bow, and Cooper adopted the name of the circus. Today is the day of trial operation after repair of the steam turbine, and Rudolph can't wait to go to sea. The army led by the Earl has not returned yet, proving that the war is not as smooth as the Royal Navy advertised. If the army came back, there might be other accidents, and Rudolph didn't want to delay it any longer. In the engine room of the Bauhinia, Rudolph met Salmon, the ship's chief engineer, a level 3 alchemist. According to Cooper, he and Mackenzie recruited the alchemist with a monthly salary of 50 gold shields. This salary is very exaggerated. 50 gold shields is not a small amount. Rudolph calculated for him that if he relied purely on salary, it would only take 40 years for Salmon to save enough gold shields to be promoted to level 4 alchemist. The war left many alchemists on sea ships without jobs. Otherwise, Salmon's salary would have been higher. I heard from him that his salary was usually 80 gold shields a month. Engineer Salmon, how are the Royal Navy's alchemical engineers repairing it? Is the steam engine ready? Salmon heard Mackenzie say that Mr. Rudolph in front of him was the largest shareholder and investor of this ship. From the tone of Captain Cooper and First Officer Mackenzie, Mr. Rudolph was the real owner of this ship. Of course, Rudolph is the owner of this ship. This ship was snatched back by Rudolph. So far, he has spent 5,000 gold shields on this ship and made a huge investment. Those knight nobles are disgusting, and the alchemists who take refuge in the knights are even more disgusting. However, those alchemical engineers are very good. They have accumulated rich experience and abilities in maintaining so many warships. After cleaning the sea water and sea salt, those engineers came on. I've got new engine oil and replaced a lot of parts. I've checked it several times and there should be nothing wrong with it. Rudolph said, Captain Salmon, Captain Cooper, and I don't want to get involved in the war between you and the knights. We hope that your views on the knights will not affect our voyage. We want to try our luck in the southern continent and see if we can. There can be no chance of making a fortune. Of course, you don't have to believe me, but you have to believe in the salary you pay. In this chaotic situation, I am very satisfied with my job. Please believe in my professional ethics. Hearing Rudolph say that he went to the southern continent to look for opportunities to make a fortune, Salmon didn't believe it. How can someone who can get a warship be short of money? After leaving the engine room, Cooper said, "I have inquired and found out that Mr. Salmon has been working on the ship and is a trustworthy chief engineer, but his salary is too high. Crew salaries are divided into two types, alchemist and other. The alchemist's salary is tens of gold shields, and none of the other crew members exceed 10 gold shields. Alchemists can always raise their salaries to sky-high prices. This is their professional skill. If it wasn't for your money, I would be heartbroken. Do you hear this as a human thing? There is also good news. The corpses have done all the work of ordinary sailors. I will save you a small amount of money." First Mate Mackenzie took Rudolph to inspect the artillery pieces. The 60-round artillery piece has been repaired and can be used, but the ammunition is not ready yet. The alchemical cannonballs are controlled materials. Kedrick has promised to contact them, but it will take some time. Mr. Rudolph, Captain Cooper, and I have been discussing it for a long time, but we haven't decided on the business scope of the Red Bud. Business scope. This was something Rudolph had never thought about. When he got this ship, he just wanted to go to the southern continent. The center of the southern continent is desert or grassland, and big cities are located along the coast. It is much more convenient to have a boat. Armed escort ships, armed merchant ships, or, more directly, pirate ships, are all areas that are unfamiliar to Rudolph. First Mate Mackenzie said, "This ship is a warship you captured from the Carolingian Navy. She has a huge firepower system. The firepower system of this ship is too abundant on the Sargasso Sea. Even if half of the artillery is removed, it is enough to deal with the vast majority of enemies. Part pirate. Too many artillery pieces put a heavy load on this ship. There are professional supply ships in the Navy, but we don't. My opinion is that if the ship is modified and the number of guns is reduced by 20, the remaining 40 guns will be enough to deter pirates. This can reduce a large part of the ship's load, and the freed space can also be used for loading cargo. This ship is no longer a warship, and there is no need to maintain such a huge firepower. Captain, what's your opinion?" Rudolph looked at Cooper. Cooper said, "This is a very big change and requires your approval." "I agree with Mackenzie's proposal. 60 artillery pieces. Ordinary artillery shells are of little use in naval battles, only added by high-level apostles. The burden of purchasing alchemy artillery shells is too much. Really, I just learned recently that alchemy shells still require constant maintenance by alchemists, which costs a lot of money. Mackenzie, will modifying the artillery system delay our departure to sea? No, it is difficult to install the artillery, but it is very fast to dismantle the artillery. After reducing the load, it will make the Bauhinia faster and allow us to reach the southern continent earlier." "Okay, then I'll do as you say." Rudolph asked again, "How is the alchemical reinforcement circle on the side of the ship now? Has it been repaired?" Engineer Captain Salmon helped contact a level 4 alchemist and repaired the reinforced magic circle for us, but the price was very high. He spent 500 gold shields for one attack, which was outrageous. No way, alchemists are always so greedy. Under the expectant eyes of everyone, black smoke came out of the chimney of the Red Bud. After a long period of debugging, the ship slowly left the dock with a sharp whistle. Her destination is a civilian dock a few hundred meters away. This ship is not a Royal Navy ship, and now it has to make room for a warship. The vibrations brought by the steam turbine to the Bauhinia were very smooth, proving that the turbine was operating normally. When the Bauhinia sailed into the civil pier, many people stood not far away and cheered at the pier. The port of Kotor is blockaded by the Royal Navy and has not seen a ship dock for more than a month. Those who make a living on the dock are cheering for the arrival of new ships. A week later, Nairn, the steward of the Earl's Castle, met Rudolph on the Red Bud. "Mr. Rudolph, Captain Cooper, I am Nairn, the traveling steward of the Earl's Castle. Master Caleb sent me to the Earl's Castle's manor in the southern continent. We will travel together. When can we set off? If possible, I hope to leave tomorrow. Rudolf saw the ship of the manor steward Nairn, which was flying the golden anchor flag and parked next to the Bauhinia. The ship was slender and equipped with only 12 guns. It looked like a very fast seagoing ship. Tomorrow. Then tomorrow. Rudolf's first impression of Nairn was very good. He was wearing a tuxedo, with a straight back and a tough face that only a soldier could have. I hope this level 4 knight can protect Rudolf from the wind and rain. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 339. November, the first day of the Scorpio month, there were no red flags flying, and no crowds of people. At the most remote dock in Quarter Port, 2 ships left the port one after the other. The first ship was a clipper from the castle of the Earl of Golden Anchor, with the Golden Anchor flag on it. This flag was very important. Attacking the Golden Anchor flag meant attacking the Earl of Golden Anchor, and this flag was enough to scare away the little pirates. The second ship was the remodeled Bauhinia, with 2 tall chimneys emitting black smoke, which dragged backwards, proving that the speed of the ship was getting faster and faster. Rudolf stood at the bow, looking at the boundless sea, full of expectations. It has been more than 2 months since I came to Quarter Port. I finally found a ship and embarked on a journey to the southern continent. Butler Nain's ship was very fast, leaving the Bauhinia behind for a distance, but Rudolf was not in a hurry, and the ship would slow down in a few days. The day after going to sea, Kedrick got out of the cabin. Ursula did not come with him. In a few days, Ursula will pass the letter to Butler Wendler to let Wendler know that Keldrick was forced to run away from home. "How do you feel?" Rudolf asked Keldrick beside him. "Very good, I have never felt like this before, this is the taste of freedom." Rudolf had a smile on his face, but he was a little worried. Even if he did not kill the Pisces wizard of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association, the Ancient Sea Wizard Association might find trouble with him. The Ancient Sea Wizard Association is a traitor among wizards, a traitor who surrendered to the ruler and reduced the number of wizards for the ruler. It is simply unethical. Rudolf looked at the clipper of the Earl's castle in front of him and felt that he was very smart. If he couldn't beat him, he would shake someone. He shook a level 4 knight, who was also the tour butler of the Golden Anchor Earl's castle. At that time, the enemy would be a little afraid. 5 days later, Rudolf and Cooper said, "Cooper, speed up, it's time to let Butler Nain find out that their young master is on our ship." After issuing the order, Cooper went down the cabin as usual and went to the engine room to observe the operation of the steam engine. For Chief Engineer Salmon, this was a novel experience. Because the people who under him were responsible for heavy physical labor were not living people, but some corpses, to be precise, the corpses of zombies. More than a dozen corpses could only accept the simplest orders. After the engineer shouted out the order, these corpses would load coal shovel by shovel and transport coal one trip at a time. They don't know fatigue, don't need to rest, don't need to eat, they just need Captain Cooper to add some zombie power to their bodies when he patrols every day. The most exaggerated thing is that one of the corpses has no meat below the forearm, only bones, but it doesn't affect its work. Engineer Mendoza said that the ship never worried about the crew mutiny at any time, because except for the crew in charge, they were all Captain Cooper's people. Captain Cooper entered the engine room and stood aside, silently watching the operation of the engine room. When accelerating, the steam turbine will adjust many valves, which Cooper needs to memorize. He has hundreds of collections, all sleeping in the cabin below. The corpses are clumsy, and these crew members need to issue orders when working. Especially technical crew members such as the chief engineer and the wheel master are indispensable. Cooper uses some special finger bones, and the crew can use these finger bones to issue orders. The Bauhinia relies on 20 crew members and 100 corpses to operate. For these more than 20 crew members, everything needs to be adapted slowly. Sometimes you have to go down to the bottom cabin, and you accidentally step on a soft thing. When you look down, you find that it is a rotten eyeball. A corpse stretched out his hand and touched its eyeball on the ground. Its rotten eye socket was loose, causing the eyeball to fall off. It is so creepy to see these. The rotten and deteriorated eyeball, after the corpse was stuffed into the eye socket, it can actually see the road again, which is also amazing. The deck and the first floor of the cabin are the areas where the living people move around, while the 3 floors below are the areas where the corpses move around, and the 2 sides are clearly separated. Even the cannons were operated by Captain Cooper himself. Cooper looked at the work in the engine room, chatted with Chief Engineer Salmon for a few words, and then left the engine room. When he came to the bridge, he saw that the Bauhinia and Butler Nairn's ship were traveling side by side. The twin-cylinder steam turbine is powerful, and it works miracles with great force. When it really accelerates, it is no slower than a speedboat. Across the sea surface of dozens of meters, Kedrick was greeting Butler Nairn. The sea breeze was too strong, and the waves were roaring, making the 2 people's voices a little intermittent. "Oh my God! Master Kedrick! Why are you here? Good afternoon. Butler Nairn. I'm going to kill you. Rudolph the Furnace. How dare you kidnap Master Kedrick? The waves are so big today. Master Kedrick. I'll save you right now. Take you out of the wizard's clutches. Nairn, do you have any red wine from the South Continent? I don't have enough wine." The exasperated old Nairn felt that his head would be chopped off by the Earl himself. The light of a knight had already shone on him. Behind Nairn, the other knights also shone. Just when Nairn was about to stare his eyes out, he saw a small boat being lowered from the Bauhinia. "I'm Mackenzie, the first mate of the Bauhinia. Mr. Rudolph, please come over." Nairn had a dark face and had to get on the boat. Scorpio wizards have many ways to control people, and he was very worried that Master Kedrick had been poisoned. After arriving on the Bauhinia, Nairn immediately checked Kedrick. He found that there was no sign of poisoning on Kedrick. Could it be some kind of toxin that he couldn't even detect? "Master, I will kill the wizard Rudolph who kidnapped you." "Why do you want to kill him?" "He didn't kidnap me. I left Quarterport to avoid a conflict with my elder brother Caleb." Huh. Kedrick was not going to hide it and told how his elder brother Caleb took away his credit. He came out to avoid a quarrel between brothers. In Kedrick's description, he almost cried for the castle to unite his wronged brother. The 2 sons of the Earl had conflicts, and Nairn, the butler, couldn't say much. Even if he was Caleb's man, he couldn't show it too obviously in front of Kedrick. "Master, does Butler Wendler know that you're leaving?" "Butler Wendler will know in a few days." "Master Kedrick, please go to my ship. That's our family's ship. What if I get on your ship and you turn around and take me back?" "I won't go." Kedrick not only didn't want to go with Nairn, but also hid behind Rudolph. "If you're worried about my safety, then you should stay on the Bauhinia. This ship is bigger and less bumpy." Faced with Kedrick's determination, Nairn had to agree. Rudolph smiled with satisfaction. This was perfect. Level 4 knights were safer when they came to the Bauhinia. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 340. When Butler Wendler saw Ursula coming in, he was a little confused. He was not a gentle butler. To manage the Earl's huge industry, strictness was more useful than gentleness. No one would take the initiative to find him except his confidants. Seeing the cold sweat on Ursula's forehead, her evasive eyes, and her panic, Butler Wendler understood that something big must have happened. Until he saw the letter Ursula handed him, He took a quick look and his expression changed drastically. Master Kedrick ran away from home. Go find the knights guarding Kedrick. They won't make such a fuss. But Ursula said, Mr. Wendler, it's useless. Master Kedrick's knights are controlled by the wizard Rudolph and the silver snake of the castle. They are drinking and having fun in the master's camp. Kedrick said that those knights were just knights following him, not his knights, and he would not take them with him when he ran away from home. Ursula didn't know what means the wizard Rudolph used to make the silver snake obey her orders and seduce the knights, so that the knights could conceal the fact that the young master had run away. Wendler frowned. He knew that Kedrick had been unruly recently and was angry because he failed to go to the Royal Navy. He didn't expect that it was all a disguise. Kedrick's purpose was to run away from home. Butler Wendler, the young master asked me to tell you that Butler Nain is with him. Don't worry about his safety. He just doesn't want to cause a big conflict and embarrass Master Caleb, so he has to go out and hide. Rubbing his forehead, Butler Wendler felt a little depressed. The Earl on the front line has been frustrated repeatedly, and the two heirs of the Earl in the rear have caused such a big thing. Even if Nain is with him, it can't ensure that Master Kedrick is 100% safe. This is really ridiculous. Go and invite Master Caleb. After thinking for a while, Wendler stopped the servant. Forget it, don't go. Since Master Kedrick has left, we can only hope that Butler Nain can protect Kedrick. Master Caleb is under great pressure now. The Golden Anchor fleet has suffered heavy losses. It is time to compete for reconstruction resources. Ursula was a little disappointed when she left. It was almost the same as Master Kedrick guessed. Butler Wendler did not stand on his side. A few hours later, Caleb also learned about Kedrick's running away from home on the warship. It's terrible. If my father comes back, I have to explain this. That little bastard actually knew how to fight back against me in this way. Although the matter is small, it may involve moral flaws. Any moral flaws are big things. If anyone is happy, it must be Kedrick. This is the first time he has secretly escaped from the control of his family and sailed freely on the sea. For safety reasons, Kedrick asked Nain to follow him. The butler of the eldest brother had to guard carefully beside him, which made Kedrick feel the pleasure of revenge. Butler Nain's eyes swept towards Rudolph from time to time. Everyone on the ship knew that Butler Nain hated the wizard Rudolph so much. Relax a little, Butler Nain. It was Master Kedrick who came on board with me, not one of your beautiful daughters. Why do you have to do this? Humph, Butler Nain didn't want to say much. If Rudolph had kidnapped his little daughter, he wouldn't be so angry. Kedrick was excited to learn eagerly on the Bauhinia. He would go to the engine room with Cooper, look at the sea chart with the navigator, use the quadrant with the first mate Mackenzie, and go to the lower cabin to see the corpses. He even felt that the lower cabin was cooler and more comfortable than the upper cabin. Most of the people on the ship rested, especially after Kedrick also rested. Butler Nairn found Rudolph standing at the bow. He was eager to know what happened. Mr. Rudolph, if you want me to protect you, don't hide anything from me. In the perspective of Butler Nairn, Kedrick was still a child who had not experienced much of the world. He must have been bewitched by the wizard in front of him, so he had a conflict with Master Caleb and ran away from home. This wizard was particularly hateful. He even provoked the feelings between the descendants of the Golden Anchor family. If the Earl knew about it, the Earl would definitely come to hunt witches personally. The old Butler Nairn maintained his military habits and stood straight. Kedrick said that old Nairn retired as a colonel. The promotion from a full regiment to a deputy division was a hurdle for the Royal Navy. Nairn failed to get over it. He was getting older and older. After wasting a few years, he had to retire. Facing Nairn's inquiry, Rudolph replied, I think Master Kedrick has already told you that he lost the opportunity to enter the Royal Navy in advance. This grievance is a bit big, and Kedrick believes that this matter is related to his elder brother Caleb, so he uses this method to express his protest. It's meaningless to dwell on the details of this matter. What I want to know is not this, but why you kidnapped Master Kedrick. The word kidnap is not used well. Nairn's face was ugly. This wizard was very cunning and kept avoiding the key points. Then tell me what dangers you may encounter. Master Caleb promised to let me send you to the southern continent. The Golden Anchor family is a promise. I hope to understand the danger and prepare in advance. A good commander will not fight an unprepared battle. Speaking of this, Rudolph became interested. How to say this? The Royal Navy got an 80 gunship and a 60 whiz ship. These 3 ships were captured by me from the Carolingian Navy. I admit that you are extremely powerful among the 4th level apostles. No 4th level apostle can do such a thing, but the Carolingian Navy will not appear in the depths of the Sarah Ancient Sea. Rudolph was not angry because his words were interrupted, and continued. In the battle that night, a wizard of the Alchemy Alliance died in the water. He was a Pisces wizard, and later I learned that he was from the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. At that time, I didn't know that he was from the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. If I had known, I would have saluted him and sent him away with kind words. If there is any danger in following me, the only danger comes from the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. This should not be a big deal for the Earl of Golden Anchor Castle, just a small wizard association. The Ancient Sea Wizard Association will be scared and flee when they see the Golden Anchor flag. Don't worry, Butler Nain, it's a small matter, it's all a small matter. Seeing Rudolph shaking his head, Nain really wanted to do it now. However, after gritting his teeth several times, he still held back. If the Ancient Sea Wizards Association is nothing, why did you go to such lengths to kidnap Master Kedrick? I'll say it again, the word kidnap is not used well. Rudolph's eyes drifted to the distance, and Kedrick walked out of the cabin. Although Kedrick is young, he is a man with heavy thoughts and light sleep. He found that Nain came to find Rudolph, and he was smart and decided to dispel Nain's thoughts. Master, I think your novelty has worn off. Come back with me tomorrow morning. Our clipper is fast. It will only take 4 days for us to return to Quarter Port. If you don't want to go back to Quarter Port, I can also send you back to the castle, which is just as safe. No, I won't be an adult until next year anyway, and I can leave the castle and join the army. Let me take a good walk this year. A tutor taught me that the legs of a warhorse should be measured to measure the size of the fiefdom. I want to go to the southern continent to see what the Dock Manor, which is rich in wine, looks like. Nairn thought in his heart, but Dock Manor is not your fiefdom, and it will never be. Kedrick continued, Butler Nain, you don't have to worry that Rudolph will harm me. Mr. Rudolph is very wise. He knows the importance and will not do anything to me. If he wants to harm me, there are plenty of opportunities. There is no need to take me away from Quarter Port. Rudolph nodded in appreciation. He really had no ill will towards Kedrick. Master, I think both the Earl and Master Caleb would like you to go back. This is not a game. Kedrick stopped Nairn's subsequent persuasion with just one sentence, if I go back, Butler Nairn, will you stand on my side or on Brother Caleb's side? This question is too sharp for a touring butler, and Nairn cannot answer it. He is loyal to the Earl of Golden Anchor, and he is loyal to the current Earl of Palu. Among the descendants of Earl Palu, whoever becomes the Earl he will be loyal to, in his opinion, Master Caleb is more mature and more outstanding, and is the legitimate first heir. As long as Master Caleb does not die, he will smoothly become the next Earl of Golden Anchor, or even the Marquis of Golden Anchor. Hesitation is also an attitude. Kedrick got the answer from Nairn's hesitation and turned away. Nairn knew that his attitude did not satisfy Master Caleb, but he could not deceive the master. He could not say that he would become Master Caleb's loyal knight from now on. Master Caleb would definitely not believe this. Persuading Master Kedrick failed. In order to ensure the safety of the master, he could only continue to talk to Rudolph the Furnace. Listen to this nickname, is this a serious wizard? Which wizard can be given such a nickname? This ship is not a serious ship either, with a bunch of crew members put together temporarily, the captain is still a zombie, and the 3 underground cabins are full of apostle corpses. The actual controller of the Bauhinia, this wizard also exudes danger all over his body. The level 5 magic weapon has always been a dark cloud in Nairn's heart, and he must be extremely careful. Rudolph patted Nairn on the shoulder. Relax, don't frown so hard, look at your old age, your face is full of wrinkles, and there are more wrinkles after frowning. Before he finished speaking, the alarm suddenly sounded on the bridge, and the sharp alarm woke everyone up. Rudolph had expected this long ago. Larry's divination told him that this voyage would definitely go wrong, it was just a matter of time. When it comes to apostles of higher levels, divination becomes vague, and Larry's answer is not accurate. Now that the danger has finally arrived, Rudolph is not so anxious. Cooper rushed out of the captain's room and rushed to the bridge. This is the alarm that will be sounded only in an emergency. The navigator shouted that other ships were found and asked all crew members to pay attention. If it was an ordinary merchant ship, the navigator would not be so nervous. The ship that appeared in the distance must have some dangerous characteristics. The other party's route showed that they were heading straight for the Bauhinia. In the vast ocean, there are few chances for 2 ships to meet, not to mention that the navigator said that there were 3 ships on the opposite side. Nain's face was very ugly. He knew that this trip to the ancient sea would not be easy. Wizards are plague gods. There are always disasters and deaths around them. Not only wizards will not have a good end, but wizards' friends will also not have a good end. Rudolph can see clearly with a level 4 sensing wolf pupil without a telescope. The flags flying on the 3 ships are the black-bottomed Sea Wave Pisces flags. The waves represent the Sarah Ancient Sea, and the Pisces represent the backbone of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association, the Pisces Wizards. First Mate Mackenzie and Rudolph said that this flag represents the greatest danger on the Ancient Sea. The Ancient Sea Wizard Association can be said to be the largest pirate group on the Sarah Ancient Sea. Rudolph frowned, not knowing how they were caught up. He asked Butler Nain beside him, "Butler Nain, does the Ancient Sea Wizard Association have any way to lock others?" Nain's expression was extremely serious. "You should know this better than me. Once you are entangled by the Pisces Wizard, you can't get rid of it." Rudolph remembered the Pisces witch language, entanglement. Could it be that the Pisces Wizard in Kitterport did something to him? Impossible, they are all level 4 wizards. Unless they are tampered with by level 5 magic tools, Rudolph will definitely find it. Just when Rudolph was puzzled, Nain continued, "Although the Sarah Ancient Sea is large, it cannot escape the detection of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. It is said that any fish in the Ancient Sea may be used by the Wizard Association, and every fish may become the spy of the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. The Ancient Sea is the home of the Wizard Association, which is their catchphrase. Is it similar to the method used by Rudolph's pet crystal? This is more likely. As long as it cooperates with druids or druid magic tools, many fish can be obedient. Fish also have a communication method similar to ultrasound, which can transmit information to a distance in a short time. It was late at night, and the flag language was useless. The second mate went to the mast and kept lighting the lights, which was to signal the ships in the distance not to get too close to avoid collisions. What made the second mate uncomfortable was that his prompts were useless. The 3 ships were getting closer and closer, and they were getting bigger and bigger in the field of vision. Everyone finally saw the other side's flag, the Wave Pisces flag. Nain's last fantasy was shattered. It seemed that he really encountered the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. Rudolph looked at Nairn with encouraging eyes. Nairn knew he couldn't escape, and he was not a coward. He took a deep breath and shouted loudly into the distance with a loudspeaker. The owner of many manors on both sides of the Sarago Sea. The pioneer of ocean exploration. The old captain with dozens of ships. The loyal sailor of the Carloman royal family. The owner of the Golden Anchor. The glorious Golden Anchor family. I ask you to avoid our route. Otherwise, the Golden Anchor Count Castle will use force against you. Rudolph felt at ease. Isn't this the result he wanted? Do they really dare to attack the Golden Anchor flag? Until 2 gunshots, Rudolph knew that they really dared. The Golden Anchor flag was nothing. Weird Star Witch. Author, White Silver Black Iron. Chapter 341. A voice came from the ship opposite, Ancient Sea Wizards. According to the request of the Carolingian Alchemy Council. Arrest Rudolph the Furnace here. First Mate Mackenzie was smoking a cigarette, feeling extremely nervous. He knew that the ship owner Mr. Rudolph was a dangerous person, but he didn't expect it to be so dangerous. He was caught up by the Ancient Sea Wizards just a few days after leaving the port. Chief Engineer Salmon appeared beside Mackenzie. How is it? How dangerous is it? Mackenzie saw Cooper concentrating on controlling his zombies and whispered, it's very dangerous. They don't even give the face of the Golden Anchor flag. If we can survive this danger, we won't need to change jobs for a long time. I hope so. Salmon said nothing more and walked towards the engine room. The name of Rudolph the Furnace was also heard by him, a technical crew member. This ship must not sink because of the ship owner. Rudolph thought the wizards were here to avenge the dead Pisces wizard, but he didn't expect them to just arrest him. Nairn turned to look at Rudolph, meaning, you see, this is the trouble you caused. Rudolph spread his hands. There is no way, there are always people thinking about me, from the Carolingian kingdom to the kingdom of Elba, and now I am not let go even in the Sarago Sea. The Carolingian kingdom took the lead in this matter, and the Golden Anchor flag could play a small role. It could not scare the Carolingian kingdom or these crazy wizards. In order to comfort Nairn, Rudolph said, I will formulate the tactics. I will fly in the air to attract the enemy's attention. You on the ship will seize the opportunity and find a way to sink the 3 ships. After speaking, Rudolph took off from the deck. Rudolph also left with the incarnation bat that flew out of the cabin. Mackenzie on the bridge breathed a sigh of relief. The ship owner flew into the sky, and the enemy's target would not be focused on the Bauhinia, and they would have more chances of survival. After leaving the sight of others, Rudolph's face lost its relaxed disguise and became extremely serious. He flew high in the sky, overlooking the ships of the Wizard Association below. One of the 3 ships was a gunboat of the Alchemist Navy. This gunboat, like the Bauhinia, was a 60-gun ship. The remaining 2 ships were armed merchant ships with only a dozen guns on them. Rudolph attracted the attention of the Wizard Association's ships. The Wizard Association's ship stopped moving forward and slowly slowed down. The people on the ship looked up at the black spot in the sky. The level 4 Pisces wizard who had threatened Rudolph in the port also looked up at Rudolph. He felt it was a pity that the secret formula mastered by this wizard would be taken away by the Wizard Association. The strategy of the Wizard Association was the same as before, still focusing on capturing Alive, and then finding a way to get the secret formula of the South Sky constellation in his mind, and finally killing him. Hunting wizards is of great benefit to the Ancient Sea Wizard Association. All wizards who want to go to the South Continent have obtained the secret formula of the South Sky constellation from some means. This information alone is very valuable. Unfortunately, Rudolph knows nothing. In response, several wizards flew into the sky, and 5 wizards took off from different ships. In this unobstructed sky, the level 4 erosion light bead on the handle of Rudolph's cane burst into dazzling light. A beam of light shot out and shot at a wizard who also had bat wings. The speed of light was so fast that the wizard was hit by Rudolph's erosion beam before he could react. the bat wings instantly degenerated and retreated to his back to become a magic weapon. What greeted him was Rudolph's wolf blade breath. Just when Rudolph thought he could kill him with one blow, two water columns suddenly emerged from the water below. The two water columns were tightly entangled, and they rushed into the sky while rotating like two fish. The double helix water column came later but arrived first, and actually blocked Rudolph's level 4 wolf blade breath. The attack of the level 4 magic weapon was broken by the double helix water column. At the bow of the flagship of the Wizard Association, stood a wizard in a black robe. He raised his hand and pointed at the water column, which was sent by him. Level 5 Witchcraft. Level 5 Wizard. The sky-high water column rotated very fast, and anything that entered the water column would be crushed by the water column. Rudolph's worries became a reality. Among the 42 constellations in the southern sky, it was unknown which constellation this wizard contained the characteristics of. At this moment, on the Bauhinia, Cooper also issued an order to open fire. The 20 guns on the side of the Bauhinia simultaneously fired alchemical shells. The alchemical shells crossed the sea and hit the ship of the Wizard Association hard. The orange-red light of the alchemical array lit up on the ship of the Wizard Association, which was the alchemical power in the copper wire. The shell exploded outside the hull of the Wizard Association, and most of the power of the explosion was absorbed by the alchemical array. Cooper, who had seen naval battles, was not in a hurry. The alchemy array would sooner or later break the enemy's array, and by then, the ship would be left with only iron pieces and would be vulnerable to the shells. Just as Cooper controlled the corpse to fire, the enemy's counterattack began. A 60-gun ship, 2 armed merchant ships, and 50 black-side gun muzzles were aimed at the Bauhinia. For a while, shells flew back and forth in the sea between the two sides. Thick white smoke appeared in front of the ships of both sides, and shells broke through the white smoke from time to time, making a whistling sound that made people's scalps numb. Kedrick hurriedly urged the butler Nain, "Butler, let our ships join the battle." The enemy ignored the golden anchor flag. "This is a humiliation to us." Nain knew what to do. The wizard Rudolph could not die here, and Caleb still needed some of his things. After a few orders, the speedboat with the golden anchor flag detoured to the distance. As for Nairn himself, he chose to stay on the Bauhinia to protect Master Kedrick. The clipper with the golden anchor flag flying quickly detoured to the side of an armed merchant ship. 10 cannons aimed at the armed merchant ship and launched a fierce attack. The armed merchant ship was bombarded by artillery fire. It wanted to turn and fight back, but found that the speed of the Earl of Golden Anchor was amazing and could quickly switch positions in the naval battle. As long as the Bauhinia resisted for a while, the clipper would be able to find the weak point of the enemy's alchemy array and sink the armed merchant ship. Javelin. When the sky and the sea were fighting, Nain asked the attendant beside him for his javelin. Holding the javelin, the hazy white light of the night lit up on Nain's body. A protective chain shot out from behind him and connected to his knight. "I can too. The protective chain is also connected to me." Kedrick felt the pressure of the ancient Sea Wizard Association and was even willing to accept a protective chain at this time. Of course, Nain could not use the protective chain on his master. This is one of the codes of conduct for the Earl's attendants. When the battle is at its most intense, an excessive amount of ultimate power may be required within half a second. Master Kedrick cannot suffer any loss. If he fails to control it well and draws the ultimate power to hurt Master Kedrick, according to the servant code, Nain will be judged by the castle, and the Earl will personally behead him. Nain ignored Rudolph in the sky, gathered strength on the javelin, and suddenly surrendered the armed merchant ship that dared to attack the Golden Anchor flag. The dignity of the Golden Anchor flag cannot be offended. At this time, Nain has obtained the combat power beyond the 4th level Master and Apprentice. This javelin shot at the armed merchant ship with absolute power and speed. The first shot will destroy the alchemy array, and the second shot will sink the merchant ship. With just 2 shots, Nain can solve this armed merchant ship. At this moment, the second 5th level apostle on the flagship of the Wizard Association took action. When Rudolph saw that the second javelin was blocked, he cursed, "Damn it! They sent 2 level 5 apostles. They really thought too highly of him, Rudolph."